Chapter 491. He was like a lamp that had run out of fuel. This was the state of Zay Saint and Ape Saint. Originally, the 12 demon sages had to join forces to maintain the heavenly demon temple's expenditure. Now, there were 4 less demon saints. It was reasonable for him to end up in such a situation. What surprised them was that the other demon saints had died so quickly. Among them, it was not because the human sovereign was stronger that the heavenly demon temple's strength was rapidly depleted. The ape saint's eyes dimmed as he said in a low voice, "He became a celestial being 15,000 years ago and became a demon saint 7,000 years ago. Until now, he never had the chance to break through to the peak. Now that he's dead, it's a good thing." Demons had long lifespans. For the human race, even the peak of the celestial being realm would only be around 7,000 years. However, for the Yao clan, once they broke through to the celestial realm, they would have no problem living for tens of thousands of years. However, no matter how long one's lifespan was, there would be a day when it would be exhausted. Relatively speaking, the demon race gained a long lifespan, but they paid a price in terms of talent. For the human race, those with good talent would be able to step into the celestial being realm in a few hundred years, and they would have the opportunity to become almighty in 1 or 2,000 years. But in the Yao clan, even those with great talent would need a few thousand years to break through to the celestial level. If it was a mighty figure, it would take at least a few thousand years, or even more than 10,000 years. Both had their advantages and disadvantages, and it was hard to say which was better. However, from the ape saint's perspective, even if a Run Huang did not show up, his current lifespan would only last 1 or 2,000 years at most. He couldn't break through the celestial limit. In that case, there was no way to break the shackles of lifespan. Hearing this, Zaisheng shook his head and sighed. Breaking through the celestial limit is easier said than done. You and I don't even have the qualifications to reach the celestial pinnacle, so how can we talk about other things? Moreover, in the past generations of demon emperors, there was no lack of outstanding talents, but none of them had ever broken through the limits of celestial being. I originally thought that this path had been cut off, but I never thought that I would see Shi Yingtian discover it today. So, the road is still there. In Zay Saint's eyes, there was no doubt that Ren Huang had broken through the celestial being limit. If the other party hadn't broken through the celestial being limit and ascended to the realm above the celestial being, it would have been impossible for him to wipe out all the demon sages in the heavenly demon temple in such a short time. Ape Sage said, "Shi Yingtian faked his death. Could it be that he really did it for our demon race?" This time, he asked the question in his heart. Hearing this, Zaisheng suddenly fell into silence. Could it be that the human emperor faked his death for the sake of the demon race? If it had been at the beginning, he would have answered Ape Sage's question with certainty. But now, Zaisheng didn't know how to answer. With the human emperor's current strength, even if the 12 sacred beasts were present, they might not be able to contend against him. Because they had Zhu Bing. The human sovereign also had Zhu Bing. If the other party wasn't doing this for the Yao race, then what was it for? He seemed to have thought of something. Zaisheng's expression abruptly changed, and his life origin flame dimmed even more. I know what Shi Yingtian's goal is. He wants to imitate the ancient heavenly court and gather the providence of all races to rebuild the supreme heavenly court. Wang. Ape Sage's heart shook when he heard that. Imitate the ancient times and rebuild the supreme heavenly court. Unlike the human race, whose inheritance was missing, the Yao race was a race that had been passed down since the ancient times. Their inheritance had always been extremely complete, and as a sacred beast, he knew a little about the ancient times. After recovering from his shock, Ape Sage smiled bitterly. So what if I know the human sovereign's goal? If we sacred beasts die today, when the human race's army arrives, what will we use to resist the human race? There are 50 great Daos and 49 heavenly divinations. Everything has a chance of survival. Let me calculate again. Zaisheng took out a pill out of nowhere and swallowed it. The originally dim flame of life, at this time, glowed again, and it was even brighter than before. Seeing this scene, Ape Sage's heart was filled with sorrow. What Zaisheng did was to burn the last ray of life. When this power could no longer be maintained, the other party would truly die. This method was irreversible. Zheishang closed his eyes and calculated. After a long time, he suddenly opened his eyes and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. The originally flourishing life origin flame dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, there was no sorrow on his face. Instead, there was a hint of joy. Zheishang's lips moved, and a message was sent to Ape Sage's ears. The life origin flame was completely extinguished, and a sacred beast had died. Roar! In the sky above the heavenly demon temple, a towering giant ape stood proudly in the sky and roared angrily. All Yao race above the heavenly demon temple, listen to my orders within an hour. Anyone who disobeys will be expelled from the Yao race. After saying that, the giant ape disappeared. Many Yao race members were still immersed in the power of the human sovereign, but when they heard this, they instantly sobered up and headed toward the heavenly demon temple. On the other side, Qin Shujian followed behind the human sovereign and left. When they reached the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain, the human sovereign stopped in his tracks. He, who had been following behind, had to stop as well. At this moment, Qin Shujian's expression was a little awkward. No matter what, he was still tailing the human sovereign. If he encountered a bad-tempered Yao race, it would be reasonable for him to attack directly. Although the possibility of the human sovereign attacking him was not high, it was hard to explain this matter. After thinking for a while, Qin Shujian spoke first before the human sovereign could speak. Previously, I saw an aura heading toward the Skyan mountain range. I thought that the Yao race had sneaked into the human race and returned to report, so I followed in to see the situation. I didn't expect to meet your majesty. That's right, that was it. Sect Master Qin was just worried that the Yao race had sneaked into the human race and had some ulterior motives, so he wanted to take a look. As for the fact that someone had stepped over his head, he was indignant, and he wanted to get some benefits, so he followed them. It was impossible for that to happen. Hearing this, the human sovereign turned around to look at Qin Shujian and said with a faint smile, Sect Master Qin, you're wholeheartedly serving the human race. I'm very relieved. It's my duty. It's my duty. Qin Shujian smiled awkwardly. In front of the human sovereign, he couldn't show the aura that a heavenly demon should have. It couldn't be helped. The other party was too strong, so strong that it made people despair. Not to mention him, even Marquis Baiyun, who was beside him, didn't dare to disobey the human sovereign. In 7 days, the human race will officially attack the Yao race. Sect Master Qin, if you have any ideas, you can come along. One more heavenly demon will reduce the casualties for the human race. At the end of his words, the human sovereign's expression was solemn. Qin Shujian replied solemnly, Your Majesty, don't worry. As a member of the human race, I will definitely not stand by and watch. Well, I'll take my leave first. The human sovereign nodded, then took a step forward and turned into a stream of light to escape. As for Marquis Baiyun, he also looked at Qin Shujian and said with a smile, Sect Master Qin, if you have time, you can come to Zongyang City. Speaking of which, you and I haven't seen each other for a long time. I'll definitely see you next time. Okay, goodbye. After saying that, Marquis Baiyun also left with the human sovereign. Seeing that there was no one around, Qin Shujian quietly returned to the Yuan sect. No one knew that he had left, and no one knew that he had just participated in a great battle. The battle between the human sovereign and the Yao race was in the depths of the endless mountain range. It was the hinterland of the Yao race. Even if the commotion spread and attracted the attention of the human race experts, as long as they didn't go deep, they wouldn't find much. Not many people dared to go deep into the hinterland of the Yao race. The hinterland of the Yao race. That was the place where the strongest power of all the Yao race was gathered. Even if a mighty figure went deep, he might not be able to walk out. Therefore, no matter how big the commotion in the Yao race was, no one from the human race would investigate. The sky was bright. Qin Shujian was in the forbidden area, counting his gains. This time, he had killed a total of countless demon court divine generals, and his life source had directly soared to 30 billion points. But unfortunately, his life source had reached 30 billion points, but the Guiyuan ancestral cannon didn't have a plus sign that could be upgraded. Regarding this, Qin Shujian felt a little regretful. Apart from that, there were no other practical gains. Although some of the incarnations of the demon court divine generals were indeed great demons and demon kings, the battle was chaotic at that time. Even if they killed the enemies, they didn't have time to collect the spoils of war. Therefore, Qin Shujian didn't gain much after abandoning 30 billion points of life source. No, there's still one more gain. He focused his attention on himself. Currently, more than half of the 10,800 star acupoints had collapsed, leaving only 366 star acupoints still there. These 366 star acupoints were originally opened by Qin Shujian himself. Previously, I opened up 10,800 star acupoints because of the power of the heavenly court. However, when this power disappeared, these star acupoints all collapsed. However, although the acupoints are gone, the enlightenment from back then hasn't completely dissipated. Perhaps I can use this opportunity to open up some acupoints. Observing the changes in his body, Qin Shujian's expression changed. Then, he closed his eyes as he recalled the state of his body, as well as the locations of the various stellar acupoints that had been opened. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth swept over. When a celestial being cultivated, even a breath could trigger a vast amount of spiritual energy. Cold Mountain Spirit Region. When Fang Xinglan passed through the teleportation gate and entered Cold Mountain City, he saw the huge vortex in the sky in front of him. Every breath has its own astronomical changes, attracting spiritual energy from all directions. As expected of a celestial being powerhouse, this scene stunned him, and there was a trace of envy in his eyes. Celestial being. He had been searching for it for many years. Even Fang Xinglan himself didn't know if he could break through to the celestial being level in his lifetime. If he couldn't, as a great cultivator at the peak of the divine martial arts realm, his lifespan was about to come to an end. However, regarding these matters, Fang Xinglan had already become much more indifferent. He no longer had the thought of forcing himself to break through to the celestial being realm. If he could take the opportunity to peak at the second stage of the master realm, he might be able to leave some inheritances for the Heavenly Array sect. Leaving Cold Mountain City, Fang Xinglan walked straight towards Yuanzhong. When he arrived at the mountain gate, he saw the black-robed man sitting cross-legged beside the mountain gate stone tablet. Jiang Feng. Fang Xinglan frowned, and a name appeared in his heart. The news that Heavenly Corpse Jiang Feng had been refined by Yuanzhong was no longer a secret. Others knew the origin of the black-robed man, and so did the Heavenly Array sect. Although he knew Jiang Feng's origin, he didn't have any other thoughts. The current Jiang Feng was no longer the sect master of the Heavenly Corpse sect. Jiang Feng was already dead. What still existed now was merely a heavenly corpse. At this moment, Fang Xinglan stood in front of Yuanzhong's mountain gate without moving. He didn't deliberately release his aura, but he didn't deliberately hide it either. He believed the powerhouses in Yuanzhong wouldn't be unable to sense his existence. Inside Yuanzhong, Niu Feng was silently cultivating when he suddenly felt the existence of an unfamiliar aura outside the mountain gate. Although this aura wasn't strong, it was extremely vast and deep. Could there be an invasion? Niu Feng opened his eyes, and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. There was an invasion, but he wasn't too nervous. Qin Shujian had returned to the sect, and Yuanzhong was now at its peak. Even if a celestial being powerhouse came, they wouldn't be able to gain any benefits. Moreover, Niu Feng didn't feel any malice from this aura. Thinking of this, he directly left the place where he was cultivating in seclusion and walked towards the mountain gate. Outside the mountain gate, Fang Xinglan also felt an aura approaching. Peak spiritual martial force? His eyes flickered slightly. Soon, Niu Feng appeared in his line of sight. I wonder which expert has come to my Yuanzhong. Please tell me your name. Fang Xinglan of the Falling Moon Mansion's Sky Array sect is here to pay my respects to sect leader Qin. Fang Xinglan cupped his hands and said loudly, Falling Moon Mansion's Sky Array sect. Hearing this, Niu Feng's expression also changed. As a top sect, how could he not have heard of the Sky Array sect's name? As for Fang Xinglan's name, it was also like thunder in his ears. In the cultivation world, Fang Xinglan was considered to be one of the top few. He was a well-deserved powerhouse. Although Niu Feng didn't know what relationship Qin Shujian had with the Sky Array sect, since Feng Xinglan had come to pay his respects, he had no reason to reject him. So it's Elder Feng. I am Yuan Zong's elder Niu Feng. Please follow me up the mountain. Thank you. Feng Xinglan nodded. Then, the two of them entered Yuan Zong, one on the left and one on the right. Along the way, Niu Feng turned his head to look at Feng Xinglan and asked, Elder Feng, are you here to see the sect leader? Yes. That might be a little unfortunate. The sect leader is currently cultivating in seclusion. I'm afraid he might not be able to come out in time. Cultivating in seclusion? Feng Xinglan was stunned for a moment. This answer surprised him. Niu Feng smiled and said, the sect leader has always been obsessed with cultivation. He usually doesn't have much time to come out of seclusion. At this point, he paused for a moment and continued, however, there are still 3 days. My sect has some matters to attend to. The sect leader should come out of seclusion during this time. I see. Feng Xinglan suddenly understood. As for the matter that Niu Feng was talking about, he knew what it was without thinking. It was nothing more than opening a spatial secret realm. This was also the reason why he came this time. After leading Feng Xinglan to the inherited martial hall, Niu Feng took out his communication jade token and sent out the news of the other party's arrival. Then, he waited for Qin Shujian's reply. Inside the forbidden area, Qin Shujian was cultivating the Guiyuan Ancestral Classic. Now, every level required a lot of life force. It wasn't easy to rely on life force to improve the cultivation technique. The further he progressed, the more life force he would need. At that level, it might not be as fast as him cultivating by himself. Rumble. As the massive amount of spirit qi of heaven and earth poured in, the qi and blood in his body surged and turned into a dazzling river of stars that continuously charged at the next acupoint. Although the Guiyuan Ancestral Classic had 3 characteristics, among them, the constellation manifestation body was the most important cultivation method. As for the impenetrable body and the red lotus of purgation, they were all derived methods and weren't considered the orthodox cultivation method. Therefore, as long as he focused on the constellation manifestation body and continuously opened up the constellation acupoints, his cultivation realm would increase accordingly. After opening up 72 constellation acupoints, he would be able to advance to the first level of the heaven-human realm. After opening up 365 Zhou Tian acupoints, he would be at the peak of the first level of the heaven-human realm. After opening up 512 constellation acupoints, he would officially step into the second level of the heaven-human realm. The realm that Qin Shujian was in now, it was between the peak of the first level of the heaven-human realm and the second level of the heaven-human realm. His strength was stronger than the first level of the heaven-human realm, but weaker than the second level of the heaven-human realm. As the cultivation method continued to operate, the spirit qi of heaven and earth in the surroundings was also drawn in more and more. However, qi and blood kept charging at that acupoint, but he still couldn't open it. Not enough spirit qi. Qin Shujian opened his eyes helplessly. Although the absorption of spirit qi of heaven and earth in the heaven-human realm was very fast, there was a necessary prerequisite. That was, there had to be enough spirit qi in the surroundings. The origin sect was located in the spirit zone, so the spirit qi was naturally not weak. However, it wasn't easy to reach the heaven-human realm. Qin Shujian didn't intend to spend a lot of time gathering spirit qi. After all, it was time to open the space mystic realm in 3 days. Immediately, he took out 365 spirit stones from his storage ring and arranged them around himself in the Zhou Tian formation. Immediately after, a terrifying amount of spiritual qi was extracted from the spirit stone. In an instant, the color of the 365 spirit stones dimmed, and all the spirit qi was sucked out in an instant. At the same time, in Qin Shujian's body, the qi and blood star river flowed, and a vast force kept charging in his body. The acupoints that were originally closed were trembling violently, as if they were going to be opened at any time. Boom, boom, boom. After countless attempts, a star acupoint trembled and opened. Then, the qi and blood star river continued to charge toward the second star acupoint. From the outside world, Qin Shujian sat cross-legged and didn't move for a full day before he ended this cultivation. When the spirit qi of the spirit stones was exhausted, he opened his eyes again and checked the condition of his body. I opened 30 star acupoints, but I consumed more than 300 spirit stones. Now, the number of star acupoints in his body had increased from 366 to 396. With the addition of 30 star acupoints, his strength naturally increased a little. However, Qin Shujian didn't intend to continue cultivating. The main reason was that there wasn't much time left. When his eyes fell on the dim spirit stones around him, there was a helpless look on his face. More than 300 spirit stones. If it were other people who cultivated, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to consume so much spirit qi in their lifetime. But for a heavenly man, one extraction can suck all the spirit qi out of all the spirit stones. Although these spirit stones will slowly recover their spirit qi in the future, it's not easy to return to the state of being full again. In Qin Shujian's opinion, it would take at least 10 years for the depleted spirit stones to recover to their original state. The reason why the spirit stones had so much spirit qi, to put it bluntly, it was because of the accumulation of spirit stones over time and finally established the status of spirit stones. Now that the spirit qi was exhausted, it wouldn't be easy to replenish it. Qin Shujian originally thought that he was rich with more than 1,000 spirit stones. But now, if he used all these spirit stones for his own cultivation, they wouldn't last long. But on second thought, Qin Shujian also felt relieved. After breaking through to the heavenly man realm, every step of cultivation requires a lot of time. Although the cost of using spirit stones for cultivation is relatively high, the spirit stones can recover after a period of time. If you calculate it this way, your cultivation speed has actually increased by a large margin. Although the spirit stones were powerful, it wasn't to the extent of defying the natural order. It was already not easy to help a heavenly man realm cultivator to speed up the cultivation progress. Thinking of this, he felt much better. Then Qin Shujian got up and set up a spirit gathering formation around all the dried up spirit stones for these spirit stones to absorb spirit qi. In this way, it would take at least 10 years for the spirit stones to recover. Then under the spirit gathering formation, this speed might be reduced by about half. Half of 10 years, that would be 5 years. If it was calculated carefully, this span was not small at all. After doing these things, Qin Shujian took out a communication jade token from the storage ring and read the message inside. Heavenly Array Sect, Fangxinglan? After receiving the message in the communication jade token, he raised his eyebrows. Speaking of Fangxinglan, Qin Shujian was naturally familiar with him. Back then, when he was in the Flying Crane sect of the Fallen Moon Mansion, he had met him once. He was a powerful array master. Qin Shujian didn't know many array masters. But Fangxinglan was absolutely in existence whose formation's Dao cultivation could be considered first or second among all the people he had encountered. Even Ming Jingshan was slightly inferior to the other party. However, the Heavenly Array sect is in the Fallen Moon Mansion. Although Fangxinglan and I have met once, we don't have any friendship. It seems that he came to my Yuan sect at this time for the Space Secret Realm. Just thinking about it carefully, Qin Shujian roughly guessed what Fangxinglan's purpose was. Now that the news of the Space Secret Realm had spread out, it was no longer limited to the Yuan sect. During this period of time, there were already many cultivators who came, hoping to observe the opening of the Space Secret Realm, but he didn't agree. Now that Fangxinglan came over, 99% of the reason was because of this. After figuring out the other party's plan, Qin Shujian also had a faint smile on his face. The reason why he didn't agree when others wanted to observe was because these people didn't have much to gain. But the Heavenly Array sect was different. No matter what, they were still a top sect with a foundation that others couldn't compare to. Chapter 492. The day before, Fangxinglan came to Yuan sect but didn't see Qin Shujian. Then, he rested for a night in Liangshan City. Early the next morning, he came to Yuan sect to wait. Niufeng was helpless about this. However, no matter how helpless he was, he couldn't chase him away. Not to mention the power of the Heavenly Array sect, Fangxinglan came as a visit and didn't cause any trouble. Chasing him away for no reason was equivalent to making enemies. Although Yuan's sect wasn't weak now, it wasn't to the extent where it could rival the world. If he made enemies everywhere, it wouldn't be good for future development. Elder Nyo, has Sect Master Qin come out of seclusion? Sect Master hasn't come out yet. I'm afraid Elder Fong has come in vain. It's okay, I'll just wait here. Fong Xinglan sat down as if he was familiar with the place, looking like he had a lot of time. Seeing this, Niu Feng also had a headache. It wasn't appropriate to chase him away. It wouldn't be appropriate for him to leave the other party sitting here. After thinking about it, he could only sit with Fong Xinglan. Fortunately, Niu Feng didn't have anything to do. It didn't matter if he just sat there. Subsequently, the two of them chatted casually. Fong Xinglan was mainly asking questions, and Niu Feng answered accordingly. Half a day passed. Niu Feng's communication jade talisman moved, and he read the message inside. Instantly, he heaved a sigh of relief. Elder Fong, Sect Master has come out of seclusion and is waiting in the courtyard. Please follow me. Thank you. Fong Xinglan smiled. Although he could keep waiting, if Qin Shujian really didn't come out of seclusion, he couldn't just wait like this. Now that Qin Shujian saw him, it was undoubtedly a good thing. Subsequently, Niu Feng brought Fong Xinglan to the courtyard where Qin Shujian was. In the courtyard, Qin Shujian was making tea. For his current realm, spiritual tea could only satisfy his cravings. It couldn't increase his cultivation. This was also because the osmanthus flowers on the tree were too low level. While making tea, Qin Shujian's ears moved slightly. Then, the courtyard's door opened automatically, and he said slowly, "Come in." After saying this, Niu Feng and his companion arrived at the door just in time. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other and stepped in. When they saw Qin Shujian, both of them cupped their hands and bowed. "Greetings, Sect Leader." "Greetings, Sect Leader Qin. No need to be so courteous." Qin Shujian smiled and pointed to the two seats in front of him, saying, "Elder Fong came from afar. Please take a seat. If Elder Niu has nothing else to do, please sit down and have some tea with us." "No, I have other things to do. I won't disturb the Sect Master any longer." Niu Feng waved his hand and refused. There was no such thing as drinking tea. He felt a lot of pressure when facing Qin Shujian. Seeing this, Qin Shujian did not force him. "Elder Niu, you may go ahead. Goodbye." Niu Feng cupped his hands and turned to leave. When he stepped out of the courtyard door automatically closed. In the courtyard, a cup of spiritual tea was already placed in front of Fong Xinglan. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, "Elder Fong, please have some tea." "Thank you." Fong Xinglan picked up the teacup and took a sip. Regardless of whether he liked it or not, the person who asked was Qin Shujian, so there was no possibility of refusing. Not to mention that he had something to ask of him later. Just the words of a heavenly being was not something that anyone could refuse. As the spiritual tea entered his stomach, Fong Xinglan also felt a little emotional. The last time he met him, he did not seem to have broken through to the God Martial realm. Now that he met him again, he was already a heavenly being. This kind of improvement also made Fong Xinglan's heart have all sorts of complicated feelings. Qin Shujian picked up a cup of spiritual tea and took a sip. He looked at the other party and said with a smile, "Elder Fong, you came from afar this time. May I know why?" "I heard that Sect Leader Qin plans to open a space secret realm. Is that true?" Fong Xinglan asked bluntly. Qin Shujian nodded and said, "There is indeed such a thing. The Heavenly Array sect wants 2 spots to watch. May I know what the conditions are?" "Elder Fong, are you serious?" "Of course." Fong Xinglan nodded and said, "What kind of person you are talking to depends on what kind of person you are talking to." Speaking to people like Qin Shujian who talked about interests, he had to be more direct. Even if he said a lot, if he could not satisfy the other party, it would be useless. On the contrary, as long as he could pay the other party a satisfactory price, everything would be fine. Hearing this, Qin Shujian looked embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Elder Fong should know that opening a space secret realm this time is an internal matter of the sect. I have never thought of using this to exchange with other forces. Now that Elder Fong has spoken, you are making it difficult for me." Hearing this, Fang Xinglan snorted in his heart. However, even though he had seen through Qin Shujian's thoughts, he didn't reveal anything. Instead, he directly laid out the price. I heard that your esteemed sect charges 10,000 contribution points for a single observation. My sect is willing to pay 20,000 contribution points per person. Elder Fang should understand that wool comes from the sheep's back. Collecting contribution points is just a benefit for the sect disciples. What does sect leader Qin mean? Fang Xinglan's old face was a little solemn. Qin Shujian did not collect contribution points, which meant that the other party's appetite was not just a few million taels. But if he paid a bigger price, he had to hesitate for a while, because one viewing would only increase one's comprehension. It did not mean that he would definitely break through to the second stage of the Guru realm. If it was 100% possible, then needless to say, even if the Heavenly Array sect emptied all its assets, they would pay this price. But if it was just a little more comprehension, Fang Xinglan still had to consider the future of the sect. Although he was ready to give whatever the other party wanted, it did not mean that it would affect the development of the Heavenly Array sect. Although Qin Shujian could not see through Fang Xinglan's heart, he roughly understood what the other party was thinking. Hearing this, he said lightly, originally, only the sect can observe the opening of the space secret realm this time, but I have always hit it off with Elder Fang. Since Elder Fang has spoken, I have no reason to refuse. It's just opening a space secret realm once, and the consumption is not small. Some things still need to be recovered. Don't you think so? Sect leader Qin's words are reasonable. Fang Xinglan replied gloomily. Now, the more the other party said, the more uncertain he felt. If Qin Shujian did not want to ask for too much, why would he say so much to pave the way? If possible, I would also like to directly make it public and let everyone who wants to observe come. This will also allow the human race to have more experts in the Tao of Array Tao, or the Tao of Forging. Qin Shujian sighed and said regretfully, it's a pity that it's not easy to open a space secret realm. Even if the Sky Origin sect has a lot of assets, it can't afford this consumption. Sect leader Qin is benevolent and righteous. I admire you. Haha, Elder Fang, you're exaggerating. Qin Shujian smiled, then pretended to ponder and said slowly, how about this? If the Heavenly Array sect can give me 2 primordial chaos sacred fruits, then I'll leave 2 spots for Elder Fang to observe this time. Although the primordial chaos sacred fruit is a level 9 spirit medicine, it shouldn't be a big problem for the Heavenly Array sect. This can be considered as me fulfilling the fate of our 2 families. In the end, Qin Shujian smiled and looked like he was doing it for Fang Xinglan's sake. To this, Fang Xinglan's face twitched slightly. Primordial chaos sacred fruit. And 2 of them. Only the other party dared to say that. That's right. Ordinary level 9 spirit medicines were not a problem for the Heavenly Array sect. As a top sect, they could still take out level 9 spirit medicines. However, even among level 9 spirit medicines, there were strong and weak ones. The primordial chaos sacred fruit was the top among level 9 spirit medicines. Sect leader Qin, Elder Fang, don't be in a hurry to refuse. If the Heavenly Array sect can take out 2 primordial chaos sacred fruits, then I have an opportunity to give you. Qin Shujian interrupted him. Opportunity? Fang Xinglan looked puzzled. If I'm not wrong, Elder Fang should have been stuck at the peak of the divine martial realm for a long time. If you want to break through to the diviner realm, cultivation techniques are one thing, but your own body is also very important. Qin Shujian chuckled and said, Elder Fang's foundation is indeed deep, but you're old after all, and your qi and blood are not as good as before. If you want to break through to the diviner realm at this time, the difficulty is not ordinary. However, if Elder Fang can take out the primordial chaos sacred fruit, then I can think of a way to sell you a creation pill. Boom. Hearing this, Fang Xinglan's heart was in turmoil, and his expression could not remain calm. Creation pill. How could he not have heard of the creation pill's name? The top level 9 spirit medicine was rumored to have the effect of defying the heavens. If he could get a creation pill, coupled with his cultivation technique foundation, Fang Xinglan was confident that he could break through to the diviner realm. This time, he came. Originally, He only came to watch Qin Shujian open up the space secret realm. Other than that, he had no other thoughts. But now, from the other party's words, Feng Xinglan saw the hope of breaking through to the diviner realm. If he could break through to the diviner realm on his own, then he was absolutely willing to break through to the second level of the master realm. Although the second level of the master realm was comparable to a saint realm expert. But for Feng Xinglan, even if he was at the third level of the master realm, it would not increase his lifespan at all. On the contrary, once he broke through to the diviner realm, the problem of his lifespan would be solved. Therefore, compared to the temptation of the second level of the master realm, the creation pill that Qin Shujian mentioned was more attractive to him. Sect Master Qin has a creation pill. Feng Xinglan could not help but ask. Qin Shujian smiled faintly. Let's not talk about whether I have a creation pill or not. If the Heavenly Array sect can take out 2 primordial chaos sacred fruits, then I can guarantee that I can sell a creation pill to you. Of course, the premise is that the Heavenly Array sect can afford this price. Hearing this, Feng Xinglan's mind was full of thoughts. The other party's words were very clear. He did have a creation pill in his hands. As for the purpose of Qin Shujian wanting the primordial chaos sacred fruits, he was not very clear. It could not be that he wanted to use it to refine a creation pill. As soon as this thought arose, it was abandoned by Feng Xinglan. Although he was not clear about the pill formula of the creation pill, he knew that to refine it, one would at least need the cultivation of an alchemy grandmaster. Qin Shujian was already a grandmaster in 2 Dao. In this way, the probability of the other party becoming a grandmaster in alchemy was extremely small. Qin Shujian knows an alchemy grandmaster. In the end, a thought appeared in Feng Xinglan's mind. He quickly confirmed it in his heart. That's right. The primordial chaos sacred fruits should be one of the materials to refine the creation pill. And Qin Shujian must also know an alchemy grandmaster, which was why he dared to say such a thing. For a moment, Feng Xinglan was a little excited. If he wanted to break through to the diviner realm, he still had to observe some array Dao. He had a few thousand years of lifespan, so he could go home and slowly study it. Couldn't he? But after the excitement, he quickly calmed down. Not to mention how rare the primordial chaos sacred fruits were. Otherwise, Qin Shujian would not ask him for it. And even if there really was a creation pill, the price would definitely not be cheap. Even if the other party had the idea of giving the pill to him, he would definitely ask for a sky-high price. It's not easy to get the primordial chaos sacred fruits. Even if my sect wants to collect it, it will take a certain amount of time. As long as sect leader Qin gives me 2 spots to observe, I can promise to deliver the treasure to your sect within a month. All right, since Elder Feng has spoken, I have no reason to refuse. This matter is settled. Qin Shujian nodded and directly made the decision. Then, he raised his teacup again and said, I'll toast to Elder Feng. In a few days, before the opening of the space mystic realm, I'll send someone to Liangshan City to inform you. Thank you. Feng Xinglan raised his cup in return. The main matters were settled, and there was nothing else to say. The two of them were no longer on the same level as each other. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or array Dao, Feng Xinglan was far inferior to Qin Shujian. To this, Qin Shujian naturally did not have the intention to preach the Dao for free. Therefore, after a few simple words, Feng Xinglan got up and left. In the courtyard, Qin Shujian drank alone. After getting the primordial chaos sacred fruits, I can start preparing to refine the cultivation pill, just as Feng Xinglan had guessed. To refine the cultivation pill, one of the spiritual herbs was the primordial chaos sacred fruit. Moreover, the primordial chaos sacred fruit was irreplaceable in the pill formula. It was one of the main ingredients. As for the other spiritual herbs, with Yuan Zong's current strength, he had collected almost all of them. Only the primordial chaos sacred fruit was still missing. Therefore, Qin Shujian turned his attention to Feng Xinglan. As a top sect, the Heavenly Array sect had existed for a long time, much longer than Yuan Zong. In terms of influence, Yuan Zong was only in Baiyun Mansion. As for the other manors, although it was famous, it had not reached the point where it could influence other sections. Therefore, since Baiyun Mansion did not have the primordial chaos sacred fruit, he would think of a way to get it from other manners. Moreover, Qin Shujian was not prepared to pay too high a price for a few primordial chaos sacred fruits. Like now, it was enough to exchange 1 or 2 observation spots for 2 primordial chaos sacred fruits. After getting the primordial chaos sacred fruits, Qin Shujian was also preparing to refine the cultivation pill. This kind of pill that could go against the natural order was simply an irresistible temptation for cultivators at the peak of the divine martial realm. Now, Yin Banqing of the Traceless Sect and Feng Xinglan of the Heavenly Array Sect had reserved 2 cultivation pills. Qin Shujian estimated the wealth of both sides, and the smile on his face became even more obvious. Subsequently, he glanced at the osmanthus tree and directly left the courtyard. After that, Qin Shujian was basically strolling around the sect. Occasionally, he would casually give a few pointers when he saw a disciple that was pleasing to the eye. With his heavenly realm, the disciples at this stage could not hide it all in his eyes. He could see the flaws in any cultivation method or martial arts at a glance. His casual pointers made many people go wild with joy. On an empty square, Xiao Junyi, who had already become an elite disciple, danced with a long sword in his hand. A sharp sword light burst out, and a few afterimages appeared in front of him as he moved. In the end, the afterimages combined into a beam of sword light and smashed a mountain rock. After the sword light dissipated, Xiao Junyi sheathed his sword and looked at Qin Shujian excitedly, waiting for his pointers. Is this the 7 killing celestial demons of the Trial Sword Peak? Qin Shujian's tone was a little strange, and the way he looked at Xiao Junyi was a little strange. Although Xiao Junyi found it strange, he still answered truthfully, "It is Master's 7 killing celestial demons of the Trial Sword Peak. In the future, don't use this move in front of the Trial Sword Peak." Why? Nothing. Qin Shujian shook his head. He could not say that if the Trial Sword Peak saw this move wrongly, he might be expelled from the sect. The 7 killing celestial demons of the Trial Sword Peak was a move, although it was only a spirit-level martial art. In terms of exquisiteness, it was comparable to a divine-level martial art. Especially when it was used by the Trial Sword Peak, it was a move that could be used to challenge people of a higher level. Of course, the 7 killing celestial demons of the Trial Sword Peak, as a martial art of a family of the spirit domain, could not be more exquisite. The reason why it was so powerful was because the sword technique in the Trial Sword Peak's hands had undergone another transformation. While thinking, Qin Shujian grabbed the air, and the long sword at Xiao Junyi's waist was suddenly unsheathed, and in the next second, it was in his hand. The whole process seemed slow, but Xiao Junyi did not react until the long sword was in his hand. Although I don't understand the 7 killing celestial demons of the Trial Sword Peak, I know some tricks. I will only use this move once, and how much you can understand depends on your talent. Qin Shujian held the sword with one hand, and the surroundings seemed to be merged with heaven and earth. Hearing this, Xiao Junyi's face immediately became serious, and his gaze fell on Qin Shujian, and he did not dare to blink for a moment. To be able to receive guidance from Qin Shujian was a supreme honor in the entire Yuan sect. Some disciples who were more powerful than him might not be able to receive such treatment. So, this was undoubtedly a great opportunity for Xiao Junyi, especially now that the Trial Sword Peak was in seclusion. Although he was the disciple of the Trial Sword Peak, there was no one to guide him. Watch carefully, Qin Shujian shouted softly, and then moved his feet, and the long sword pierced forward. Boom! In an instant, Xiao Junyi's head buzzed. In his line of sight, Qin Shujian had only taken a step forward and pierced with the sword, and it seemed to have occupied his entire vision. When he looked at it, it seemed like there was only one person, but it also seemed like there were thousands of afterimages. In the end, the afterimages of the sword gathered together and turned into a shocking sword that directly bombarded the depths of his heart. All of a sudden, Xiao Junyi closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes, the long sword had already been sheathed, and Qin Shujian was nowhere to be seen. 7 killing deities and ghosts against the stars, he murmured, and his pale face was filled with uncontrollable joy. Xiao Junyi could not see much from the sword just now, But that little bit he saw had already allowed him to comprehend a part of the essence. When he looked at the attribute panel, he did not know when this sword move had taken a step forward and reached another level. Seeing this, Xiao Junyi could not help but take a deep breath. One demonstration directly advanced the sword technique to a new level. If I watch it a few more times, won't it directly reach the highest level? Although he knew that this was not very likely, but he was still pleasantly surprised by the harvest this time. On the other side, Qin Shujian had already left. The reason why he guided Xiao Junyi was because the latter was a disciple of the Trial Sword Peak. Since the Trial Sword Peak could be ruthless enough to kill a spiritual god, Yuan sect was destined to have one more expert in the future. Now that the Trial Sword Peak was in seclusion, and there was no disciple to guide him, he might as well be a good person and guide him along the way. Speaking of which, my sect is not very competent. For so long, I have not guided the cultivation of my disciples. Now is a good opportunity. Qin Shujian shook his head and laughed. Yuan's sect had been established for so long, and he was either in seclusion to cultivate or out to harvest life sources. The disciples in the sect were all handed over to the elders to deal with. No matter what, this was a bit inappropriate. However, Qin Shujian did not have the intention to recruit disciples now. After all, once a disciple was accepted, it was impossible to leave them alone. But if he wanted to take care of them, it would waste a lot of time. In a short time, he did not have this idea. At this moment, the news of Qin Shujian giving pointers to his disciples also spread. Many disciples deliberately came to meet Qin Shujian by chance and then wanted to get a few pointers. To this, Qin Shujian turned a blind eye to most of them and only picked some that he found pleasing to the eye and gave them some pointers. There were so many disciples in Yuan's sect. If he guided every one of them, he would have to queue for a long time. At this moment, Qin Shujian's communication jade token heated up, and then he took it out of his storage ring. His divine sense landed on it, and the corresponding message appeared. Why is Ming Jingshan here to join in the fun? The message appeared in his mind, and his expression was a little strange. It was understandable that Fang Xinglan came because there was no second realm guru in the Heavenly Array sect, but it was not necessarily the case for Ming Jingshan. Although Fang Xinglan was a first realm guru, he was backed by the Imperial Court, and there must be a second realm guru in the Imperial Court. With Ming Jingshan's status, and the fact that he had made a lot of contributions in the past, the Imperial Court had no reason to refuse him if he wanted to be guided by a second realm guru. However, although Qin Shujian was puzzled, there was no reason to reject him. In Chengwu Hall, as soon as Ming Jingshan saw Qin Shujian, he cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Sect Master Qin, I haven't seen you for a while, and you're even more elegant than before. I really admire you." "You're too polite, Master Ming." Qin Shujian laughed, and there was a little more enthusiasm on his face. Unlike Fang Xinglan, he still had a good impression of Ming Jingshan. After the two of them sat down, Qin Shujian asked, "May I know why Master Ming came from afar this time?" "I heard that Sect Master Qin wants to open up the space secret realm, so I came here shamelessly to ask for a chance to observe." Chapter 493. Speaking of which, I'm ashamed. I didn't expect Sect Master Qin to reach such a realm before me, even though I've wasted so many years. It's really embarrassing. Ming Jingshan's words were full of emotions. The second realm of Grandmaster. He had always been pursuing this realm. It was a pity. He hadn't even reached the peak of the first realm of Grandmaster, let alone the second realm of Grandmaster. Qin Shujian smiled faintly. "Grandmaster Ming, you're overpraising me. There should be many second realm Grandmasters in the Imperial Court. With your status, it shouldn't be a problem for you to gain some insights." "I'm afraid Sect Master Qin is wrong about this. Although there are second realm Grandmasters in the Imperial Court, it's not easy to invite them." Ming Jingshan shook his head and said, "If I hadn't heard that Sect Master Qin had opened the space secret realm, I wouldn't have come all the way here. However, I won't ask for an observation spot for free. I heard that a disciple in your sect needs 10,000 contribution points to observe. Coincidentally, I've also registered an identity in the Yuan Pavilion and have tens of thousands of contribution points. How about exchanging 3 times the contribution points for a disciple in your sect for a spot? 3 times the contribution points. That was 30,000 contribution points. It could be seen that Ming Jingshan had indeed come with sincerity. Hearing this, Qin Shujian pondered for a moment and nodded. Since Grandmaster Ming has spoken, then it's decided. Haha, Sect Master Qin is a straightforward person. I owe you a favor this time. Ming Jingshan was also in a good mood. 30,000 contribution points were a lot for ordinary people, but for him, it was only 6 million taels of silver. This price was high, but it also depended on who had it. Ming Jingshan was a formation grandmaster and had the support of the huge Ming family behind him. Although taking out a few million taels of silver wasn't as simple as eating and drinking, it wasn't to the extent of hurting him. Ming Jingshan came quickly and left quickly as well. After the matter was settled, all that was left was to wait. In the Yuan sect, there were no other places for people to stay. If Ming Jingshan wanted to stay, he could only go to Liangshan City. Ming Jingshan. Qin Shujian tapped his finger lightly with a faint smile on his face. He was different from Feng Xinglan. The heavenly deployment sect was not worthy of his attention, so he still had to fight for the benefits. But Mingjing Mountain was different. Not to mention the relationship between the two of them, just the fact that the other party was a member of the imperial court was enough to make people treat him with caution. Qin Shujian shook his head when he recalled the power of the human emperor. As long as the human emperor was alive, there were not many forces in the world that could contend with the imperial court. After Mingjing Mountain, many people from other sects came to visit. As for his objective, it was the same as Feng Xinglan and Ming Jingshan. He hoped to obtain an opportunity to observe. Regarding this, Qin Shujian directly stated the price. You could either take some high-grade materials or some treasures. For a time, many people were eliminated. After all, no matter what, the people who could take out these things were not from ordinary sections. Time passed. Rumble. There was a lot of noise in the sky, and a large amount of spirit qi surged. The entire Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate seemed to be slightly shaken. In the Yuan sect, Qin Shujian raised his head and looked at the changes in the sky. In his perception, the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate had expanded from its original foundation. Another region has advanced and merged with the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate. It was normal for a region to advance. The Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate was surrounded by a bunch of true regions and ordinary regions. The abundant spirit qi was enough to affect the surrounding regions. This was a situation where a region had advanced. This was not the first time it had happened. Every time a region advanced, it meant that the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate's territory would expand. At the same time, the spirit qi would become denser. There is no such thing as breaking the shackles from a spirit protectorate to a major domain. It can only rely on time and the density of spirit qi to slowly advance. Apart from the density of spirit qi, there is not much difference between a spirit protectorate and a major domain. Qin Shujian shook his head as he felt the pervasive spirit qi of heaven and earth. The advancement of a spirit protectorate to a major domain was not something that could be done by simple people. It was a chance to advance over time. However, it was not that there was no chance. If a large number of spirit stones were buried in the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate, the impact of the spirit qi might be able to promote the spirit protectorate to a major domain. However, the number of spirit stones needed to achieve this would not be as simple as a few hundred or a few thousand. Qin Shujian sighed and said helplessly, if you want the spirit protectorate to advance to a major domain, you will need to bury hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. This would require too many spirit stones. 100,000 spirit stones. Even the great Zhao nation's treasury might not have 100,000 spirit stones. The reserves of a prefecture's marquis were only a few hundred spirit stones. This time, the advancement of a region had caused quite a commotion. In a region, a group of true martial realm cultivators greedily inhaled and exhaled the dense spirit qi of heaven and earth. In this region, it had originally been an ordinary region. However, after the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate had advanced, it had quickly advanced to the true domain level. Now, It had advanced to a spirit protectorate less than 2 years after entering the true domain. Such a leap. This had caused the spirit chi of this region to become extremely dense. This had also allowed the cultivators here to obtain great benefits. However, at the same time, the shortcomings were also very obvious. Originally, the strongest person in the ordinary region had been at the limit of the basic martial realm. After the true domain had advanced, although some people had broken through to the true martial realm, they had only lingered around the early stage true martial realm. Now, the true domain had not yet stabilized, yet it had been extended to the spirit protectorate. Such a change, this had caused a serious lack of top-notch combat strength in this region. In a spirit protectorate, the strongest person was only at the early stage true martial realm. In the eyes of other cultivators, this was simply a delicious cake. The competition for a region and the killing of sections. This was something that happened all the time no matter where it was. Qin Shujian had no intention of paying attention to this. Natural selection. There was nothing worth talking about. However, the attention of the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate was currently focused on the Origin Sect's mystic area. Therefore, not many people paid attention to the advancement of that region. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, many people came to Liang Mountain and entered the Origin Sect. In order to facilitate the opening of his mystic area, Qin Shujian had specially cleared out a spacious area for his own refinement. This was also for the sake of the people who had come to observe. Apart from the Origin Sect disciples, the people from the Celestial Array Sect were the first to arrive. Elder Fong, you came just in time. Xiang Haogan looked at Fong Xinglan and greeted him with a smile. As for Fong Xinglan, he also knew him. Although Xiang Haogan was originally an itinerant cultivator, he was still a great cultivator of the divine martial realm. Furthermore, he had done a lot of research on array formations and had visited the Celestial Array Sect before. Upon hearing this, Fong Xinglan returned the greeting and said with a faint smile, "Long time no see. Elder Xiang's elegance is even greater than before." The current him had no intention of looking down on the other party. The current Xiang Haogan was no longer an itinerant cultivator. He was the hall master of the Origin Sect's Array Formation Hall and also an inner sect elder. He was a 7th grade official in front of the Grand Chancellor. The elders of the Origin Sect naturally had a higher status in front of others. "Haha, Elder Fong, you're too kind." Xiang Haogan laughed. Then, he looked at Mu Liang and asked uncertainly, "Is this sect Master Mu?" "Greetings, Elder Xiang." Mu Liang smiled and cupped his hands. Xiang Haogan was stunned. Then, he replied with a smile, "So it's really sect Master Mu. I'm almost blind." Although he said that, his heart was filled with surprise. Mu Liang. Xiang Haogan also did not expect that the sect master of the Celestial Array Sect would personally come to the Origin Sect to observe the opening of the Space Secret Realm. However, although he was surprised, he did not show it on the surface. Subsequently, the other people who had exchanged for the slots also arrived one after another. The Origin Sect did not make any special arrangements for this, nor did they set up any seats or anything. After all, the main purpose of these people coming here was to observe the opening of the Space Secret Realm. Everything else was not important. Following Ming Jingshan's arrival, it also caused quite a commotion. Just like Fong Xinglan. Although Ming Jingshan was a member of the Imperial Court, he also had quite a reputation in the cultivation world. Although they were both array masters, to be honest, he was more famous than Fong Xinglan. Naturally, this was due to the Imperial Court's help. Master Fong. Master Ming. When Ming Jingshan saw Fong Xinglan, he was also a little surprised. However, the two of them did not say much. After a simple meeting, they stopped talking. As for the disciples of the Origin Sect, when they saw so many people coming, they were also surprised. No one would have thought that there would be so many powerhouses appearing. In the crowd, Lu Dazhong clicked his tongue in wonder. Opening a space secret realm attracted so many people. If they were to charge money, how much would they earn? They would definitely earn a lot. When the players at the side heard this, they sneered. They also had a deep understanding of their own sect master. He was a typical money grubber. Even the disciples of his own sect had to pay 10,000 contribution points to observe. these outsiders would probably lose a layer of skin. As for not taking a single cent, no one would believe this if they said it out loud. Hearing this, Lu Dazhong sighed and said, "When I have such attractiveness, I won't have to worry about not being able to earn money." To be honest, he was really jealous. Look at what kind of people were coming. Top sects, large sects, each of them were rich masters. If he were to make a fortune from these people, he would definitely make a lot of money. However, Lu Dazhong was just thinking about it in his heart and did not take any practical action. At this moment, with everyone's arrival, in the middle of the originally empty field, the space was slightly distorted, and a person had appeared out of nowhere. This scene, it made the pupils of several experts at the peak of the divine martial arts involuntarily shrink. The other party did not appear out of nowhere. Instead, his speed was so fast that it was impossible to see with the naked eye, which caused such an effect. Even with their eyesight, they could only see a few clues, but not too much. The diviner realm is so terrifying. In the minds of these people, this thought appeared at the same time. Just a little, and you would be able to see everything. Even if the peak of the divine martial arts was only one step away from the diviner realm, the gap was still unimaginably big. Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Sect Master Qin. When Qin Shujian appeared, everyone either bowed or cupped their hands to salute him. To this, Qin Shujian only nodded slightly and then focused his attention on the empty space in front of him. In these few days, he had been conserving his energy, and now his essence, qi, and spirit had reached a peak state. Buzz! A mysterious and vast wave rose from Qin Shujian, causing the space to tremble and buzz. Then, a terrifying divine sense came out of his body, turned into an axe, and chopped at the space in front of him. Boom! The axe fell, and the space distorted violently. The loud noise was like the sound of the heavens, causing everyone's minds to sway. One axe, two axes. Every time the axe was chopped, there was a mysterious trajectory. The space in front of him was like a curtain, twisting and rippling, and the waves spread out in all directions with this as the center. Come! Qin Shujian clenched his hand in the void, and the giant axe formed by his divine sense suddenly condensed into a substance, and finally fell into his hand. The next moment, the giant axe chopped out, and a myriad of Taoist rhymes spread out. Rip! The space suddenly shattered, and a pitch-black crack appeared under the giant axe. Then, Qin Shujian chopped out 8 more times with the axe, and the crack in the space was enlarged to a certain extent. Then, the giant axe dissipated, and the vast divine sense turned into many array patterns and directly sank into the crack in the space. When the array patterns appeared, everyone's eyes were fixed on it, and they didn't dare to relax for a moment. It was supposed to be an ordinary array pattern. However, in the eyes of these people, it was as if it had come alive. Every stroke was natural, and there was a terrifying Taoist rhyme circulating inside. All of a sudden, someone screamed, and then closed his eyes. 2 lines of blood flowed down from his eyelids. Xiang Haogan suddenly shouted, "Those who can't look, don't force yourself." Hearing that, immediately, a few disciples sat down cross-legged, not daring to look at the array patterns. However, more people stared at it without blinking, constantly trying to figure out the charm. The second level of the Master Realm. Looking at the scene in front of him, Fang Xinglan's heart was also shocked. Those array patterns were no longer as simple as array patterns, but had turned into a myriad of laws of heaven and earth, intertwining within. Inside every law, there were also endless Taoist rhymes. These Taoist rhymes were of great benefit to those with sufficient cultivation, but to those with insufficient cultivation, it was a terrifying killing intent. Rumble. The void trembled. As the array patterns fell, the space that was supposed to heal was forcefully stabilized, opening up a spatial secret realm. There was also a method to turn a mustard seed into a mountain. Now, Qin Shujian used a spatial crack as a node to directly open up a vast secret realm. Many array patterns fell, and an array formation was suddenly formed. Then, in the pitch-black spatial crack, there seemed to be earth, water, fire, and wind emerging, and there seemed to be the division of heaven and earth. At this moment, Qin Shujian took out a lot of materials that he had prepared long ago from his storage ring. Flames ignited in the void, and a vast amount of spiritual energy surged over, turning into nourishment. When the flame appeared, Li Yunmu's eyes lit up. The surrounding temperature instantly rose. The 9th level materials that were supposed to be indestructible melted under the burning of the flames at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the moment the materials melted, an invisible hammer formed by divine will smashed fiercely towards the liquid. Bang! The heavy voice caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Some of the disciples who had been bitterly holding on spat out a mouthful of blood when the hammer fell, ending their observation. Until now, none of the people from the other sects who came to watch had left. On the contrary, more than half of the disciples from Yuan's sect had already sat down cross-legged to heal their injuries and digest what they had gained this time. Xiang Haogan was not surprised by this. After all, the realm of Yuan's sect disciples was too low. Not everyone could watch a heavenly being perform a Dao. As for the people from the other sects, they were all experts now. Naturally, they would not be unable to hold on so quickly. Or else, the price would be paid for nothing. Bang! Bang! Every time the hammer fell, Feng Xinglan felt that his spiritual spirit had been tempered. It seemed to have become clearer, but he also felt very uncomfortable. The hammer sounds directly hit the spiritual spirit. What kind of method is this? The eyes of the great elder of the Heavenly Array sect were already filled with shock. In his line of sight, as Qin Shujian's hammer fell, the melted liquid gradually merged into the space. That's right. The space that was supposed to be empty had become different now. What is he doing? Feng Xinglan was shocked. With his current vision, he could not see what Qin Shujian's purpose was. On the other side, at this moment, Shen Yuqing was also focused on Qin Shujian's actions. When Yuan's sect was promoted to a 7th grade force, he was also forcefully promoted to the peak of the spiritual martial realm. The spiritual spirit that had skyrocketed was incomparably illusory. But now, when the hammer sounds appeared, the illusory spiritual spirit was greatly shaken. Some impurities were expelled bit by bit, causing the realm to become more stable. In such a situation, to Shen Yuqing, this was naturally a good thing. However, compared to the changes in the spiritual spirit, he paid more attention to the Dao rhymes that erupted from Qin Shujian's hammer every time it fell. After breaking through to a superior grade blacksmith, Shen Yuqing had been stabilizing and settling in this realm. Now, when the hammer fell, he found that his realm was gradually stabilizing. Some of the things that he could not figure out before were also suddenly enlightened. Bang! Another hammer fell. The spiritual spirit shook violently. Shen Yuqing's face immediately turned pale. I've reached my limit. He was a little unwilling. Until now, he had only opened about half of the space secret realm. But he knew his own situation. The reason why he could hold on for so long was because he was at the peak of the spiritual spirit. Or else, earlier on, they had already retreated in defeat. If he forced himself to hold on now, he would only end up seriously injured. Therefore, at this time, Shen Yuqing had no choice but to close his eyes and sit cross-legged on the ground to cultivate. He no longer watched the hammering scene, and as his eyes closed, the hammer sound that had been bombarding the spirit god had also suddenly disappeared. It could be seen and heard. Shen Yuqing was shocked in his heart. This kind of method was already beyond his understanding. In the open space, at this time, Qin Shujian was concentrating. His divine sense was pushed to the extreme. It turned into a hammer that constantly hammered the materials, causing them to merge with the space crack. If he wanted to open a stable space secret realm, he must have a carrier. With his current strength, it was not realistic to want to directly extract a space and place it into a carrier. Therefore, Qin Shujian did the opposite. He used the materials to merge into the space and forcibly turned the space into his own without stripping it off. Every time the hammer fell, for him, it consumed a lot of energy. Fortunately, after reaching the heavenly realm, the spiritual spirit and the physical body merged. The stronger the physical body, the stronger the spiritual spirit. After opening the 376 stellar acupoints, Yi Zichen finally opened up the star acupoints. Qin Shujian's spiritual spirit grew stronger on the original foundation. Therefore, although his divine sense was severely exhausted, it was not a big problem with his huge spiritual spirit as the foundation. How many hammers fell in total? Qin Shujian himself did not remember. Only when all the liquid merged into the space did he stop. Then, he struck out the runes. His divine sense enveloped all the melted materials and constantly gathered them into shape. After that, he hammered again. The golden crow fell. The moon rabbit rose. In the blink of an eye, a day and night had passed. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the sky had reached a very terrifying level. Half of the spiritual chi in the entire Liang Mountain spiritual domain was drawn over by Qin Shujian. At this time, there were not many people who were still holding on. One was Fang Xinglan, one was Mu Liang, one was Ming Jingshan, and 2 other experts at the peak of the divine martial realm. Apart from them, the others closed their eyes and stopped watching. Even Xiang Haogan, a great cultivator at the divine martial realm, could not bear it anymore. Although he was at the divine martial realm, however, in the end, he had not reached the peak of the divine martial realm. His strength was far inferior to Fang Xinglan and the others. However, Xiang Haogan was satisfied with the harvest this time. Although he regretted not being able to see the end, it was in line with his expectations. Boom! Another hammer fell, and the sound of heaven and earth rang. Mu Liang's body shook, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, his eyes were still open, and he did not dare to relax for a moment. Another hammer fell. A terrifying Taoist rhyme appeared. He finally closed his eyes unwillingly, and 2 streaks of blood flowed down from his eyelids. Even if he was at the peak of the divine martial realm, there was still a limit. A vast wave of energy spread out. The space that was originally cracked had now stabilized. The melted liquid materials merged with the space, turning into a substantial door that stood on the ground. On the light green door, there was a Taoist rhyme circulating. Then, Qin Shujian took a step inside and disappeared without a trace. It was also at this moment. The power that was originally overflowing dissipated completely. Fang Xinglan looked at the place where Qin Shujian left and sighed in his heart. He knew. This time, the opening of the space secret realm had come to an end. The remaining matters. It was not something he could observe. However, even so, Fang Xinglan still gained a lot. It was just that he still needed time to digest these gains. On the other side, as Qin Shujian stepped in, everything around him suddenly changed. A deathly silent space had already appeared in his line of sight. The spirit energy in this space was extremely thin, to the extent that it was almost negligible. Apart from that, there was nothing else in the space in front of him except that it was relatively vast. There's one last step left. Qin Shujian looked at the space in front of him and stepped into the air. His vast divine thoughts spread out, and endless formation patterns were born from nothing. They were like the rules of heaven and earth, interweaving in the entire space. Chapter 494. His divine consciousness was expanding. The space was also expanding. Qin Shujian hovered in the sky. In his perception, the range of the space quickly expanded to the scope of the ordinary realm. However, this was not enough. Since he had opened up the space secret realm this time, he had to open it up big enough. It lasted for half a day. Qin Shujian felt that the space around him began to become unstable, as if it would collapse at any time. It's the limit. With his current ability, the range in front of him was the limit. If it continued to expand, the secret realm would be in danger of collapsing. Once the secret realm collapsed, even a celestial being would be in danger of dying if he fell into it. So, after noticing the instability of the space, Qin Shujian immediately stopped opening and then stabilized the space with the formation pattern. The formation pattern fell, and mountains and earth veins were born. Then, he took out hundreds of spirit stones from the storage ring and buried them all over the secret realm according to the number of Zhou Tian. The spirit stones fell. A vast amount of spirit energy suddenly burst out. The space that was originally dead finally glowed with vitality at this moment. Spirit energy was the root of everything in the world. As long as there was spirit energy, it was possible to give birth to everything. It's a pity that the rules of this space are not perfect. Although it can condense spirit energy, it doesn't have the capital to evolve living creatures. I don't know if it can evolve living creatures when I reach the third realm of the Grandmaster realm in the future. Qin Shujian shook his head and felt a little regretful in his heart. Immediately, he moved his divine consciousness again. A huge spirit-gathering formation covered the entire secret realm space at a speed visible to the naked eye. From the outside world, the space around the gate of the secret realm vibrated slightly. Invisible tentacles stretched out from the space of the secret realm and then took root in the space of the outside world. Suddenly, pure spirit energy of heaven and earth constantly poured into the secret realm through the tentacles. The already rich spirit energy became even more abundant at this moment. Qin Shujian took a breath casually, and a huge amount of spirit energy of heaven and earth swept over. The spirit energy is rich. It will be a good place for cultivation after a period of time. Opening up the space secret realm, on the one hand, it was for his disciples to cultivate. On the other hand, he was also preparing for himself. After breaking through to the celestial being realm, if he wanted to improve his realm, he either had to rely on a large amount of life source, or he needed to work hard and advance bit by bit, just like before. The fact that he could open 10 apertures in one go was due to the abundance of spiritual energy in his body. If he didn't have the help of spiritual energy, Qin Shujian felt that it would take at least a few years for him to open even one acupoint. However, the spiritual energy in spirit stones was not endless. Without harming the source of the spirit stone, it would take a few years for it to recover every time it was completely absorbed. Therefore, Qin Shujian had specially opened up this mystic realm. While using spirit stones to nourish the mystic realm's spirit qi, he also used the array to absorb the spirit qi from the outside world, constantly increasing the density of the spirit qi in this mystic realm. After a certain extent, even if a celestial being were to cultivate here, it would be sufficient. By the time Qin Shujian came out of the secret realm, an entire day had passed. Fang Xinglan and the other experts of the sects and powers had already bid farewell and left. Outside the entrance to the secret territory, Zheng Fang and a few other elders were waiting at the side. Sect leader, with the entrance of the mystic realm as the foundation, build a place to protect this place. In addition, I will set up an array around the mystic realm. No one is allowed to step inside without permission.
Yes.
Zheng Fang and the others nodded and accepted the order. Just as Qin Shujian was about to leave, Zheng Fang said, when Fang Xinglan left, he said that there was already news of the Hunyuan sacred fruit that sect leader wanted. He will send someone to deliver it after a period of time. I got it, Qin Shujian replied and left. The Hunyuan sacred fruit was the condition that they had agreed on previously. Fang Xinglan wouldn't dare to not give it to him. He definitely wouldn't give it to him. Then Sky Origin sect would have an excuse to attack the Sky Array sect. After returning, Qin Shujian fell asleep. The consumption of opening up the spatial mystic realm this time was too great, causing him to feel tired. Ever since he became stronger and stronger, sleeping was something that he rarely did. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qin Shujian simply fell asleep. At the same time, the news of Qin Shujian opening up the spatial mystic realm spread out again. Different from the previous rumor, what spread out this time was all kinds of miraculous things about opening up the mystic realm. For many people, they had only heard of the method of opening up space in rumors, but had never seen it with their own eyes. Thus, after hearing those rumors, many people began to feel regret. If I had known that opening up the spatial mystic realm was so extraordinary, I would have gone to take a look no matter what. Whether or not there would be any gains, just this matter alone is enough to brag for a long time. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no chance. Some people from the sect beat their feet and stomped their chests. They were people who could afford this price, but because they felt that observing the opening of the spatial mystic realm was useless to them, they couldn't bear to pay this price. Now that they regretted it, there was no other way. At night, the sky in the distance shook as if something had broken. Bright light dispelled the darkness, causing people's hearts to feel heavy. When Qin Shujian woke up, he immediately received a message from the sect. Demon Clan's phenomenon. Night is as bright as day? After receiving the message, he also had a puzzled look on his face. At this juncture, there was a strange movement of the Demon Clan, which inevitably made people think too much. The Demon Clan is not willing to sit still and wait for death. Could it be that this time's phenomenon has been triggered? Qin Shujian's mind was spinning. At this time, he couldn't sit still anymore. After coming out of the courtyard, he immediately gathered the other elders and went to Qingwu Hall for a meeting. I heard that there has been some movement of the Demon Clan recently. Tell me about it. Looking at the elders below, Qin Shujian said. Hearing this, Su Yuaming replied, 2 days ago, there was a bright light dispelling the darkness in the Demon Clan's territory. The phenomenon lasted for more than 2 hours before disappearing, but no experts dared to go in to investigate, so they haven't found anything yet. Phenomenon. Qin Shujian tapped his fingers gently. Some time ago, he followed the human emperor deep into the Demon Clan and had a big battle with the experts of the Demon Clan. He didn't dare to underestimate the strength of the Demon Clan at all. Fortunately, it was the human emperor who made the move. Otherwise, if it were any other mighty figure, they would probably have been defeated by the Demon Clan. With such strength, it was already enough to crush most of the humans. In the absence of the human emperor, if the human clan wanted to fight against the Demon Clan, both sides would suffer great losses. Therefore, Qin Shujian had always had a solemn attitude towards the Demon Clan. Although the Endless Mountain Range was vast and the human clan bordered the Endless Mountain Range, not only the Baiyun Mansion, but also the Liang Mountain Range. But a while ago, it was he, Qin Shujian, who went in with the Marquis of Baiyun and the human emperor to provoke them. Perhaps the Demon Clan would remember this matter. If he were the Demon Clan, if he decided to fight with the human clan, the first place he would definitely attack would be the Liang Mountain Range. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian said in a deep voice, inform all the disciples to be on alert to prevent the Demon Clan from attacking. Also, send some people to go into the Endless Mountain Range to investigate the situation. Okay, Su Yuaming nodded. Now that the Endless Mountain Range was dangerous, no one dared to go in. But if the mission reward was enough, some mutant disciples were still willing to take the risk. After giving some instructions, Qin Shujian asked again, it has only been a few days since the human emperor attacked the Demon Clan. During this period of time, has the Baiyun Mansion army made any movements? The Baiyun Mansion army is gathering during this period of time. A part of them has already been stationed in the Liang Mountain Range. Su Yuanming replied without hesitation. On the other side, Zheng Fang asked, Sect Master, are you going to intervene? Why not? Qin Shujian said with a smile. Now that the human clan has the upper hand, as long as the human emperor is still there, the Demon Clan will have no chance to make a comeback. The Demon Clan has occupied the Endless Mountain Range for thousands of years, and their accumulation is immeasurable. Instead of letting others eat it clean, it's better for us to take a share. In his opinion, the Demon Clan was a moving treasure. The Endless Mountain Range had nurtured countless treasures over the years. As the overlord of the Endless Mountain Range, the Demon Clan had countless treasures. These things, even if he could only get a part of it, it would be a huge gain for Yuanzong. Moreover, the progress of the disciples is still too slow. If we want to improve, we need to consume a lot of resources. With the current inventory of the sect, we can maintain it for a while, but there will be a day when it will be used up. In the end, Qin Shujian added. Hearing this, the others didn't object. Indeed, the resources of the Demon Clan were enough to make people jealous. In the past, the Demon Clan was powerful. Even if others were jealous, no one dared to interfere. But it was different now. The human clan attacking the Demon Clan was a good opportunity to reap some benefits. Not to mention Yuanzong. Currently, at least 80% of the sects in Baiyun Mansion were making preparations, hoping to join the army to attack the demon race and reap some benefits. After the matter was settled, Qin Shujian glanced at Nyodali, who was sitting at the end and dozing off, and suddenly said, Elder Nyodali, stay for a while. The other elders can leave. We'll take our leave. Zheng Fang and the others glanced at Nyodali, then stood up and left. Nyodali, who was sitting at the end and dozing off, woke up from his drowsy state with a jolt. When he saw that most of the people in the Chengwu Hall had left, leaving only him and Qin Shujian, he felt that something was amiss. A bad premonition welled up in his heart. Cough, cough. Niu Dali coughed and smiled. Sect Master, may I know why you asked me to stay? Elder Niu, are you okay? Thanks to you, Sect Master. Everything is fine. That's good. Qin Shujian smiled brightly, but he had the urge to curse in his heart. He wondered if he had seen wrongly. But when he looked at it with his Dharma eye, Niu Dali's cultivation was clearly displayed. Ninth level of the spiritual martial realm. He was close to the peak of the spiritual martial realm. Qin Shujian remembered that when he was raising his cultivation, he deliberately ignored Niu Dali's name. In other words, Niu Dali cultivated to the ninth level of the spirit martial realm on his own, without the support of a sect. The last time he looked, Niu Dali was only at the fifth level of the spirit martial realm, which was considered the middle stage of the airborne realm. Now, in less than a year, he had become a cultivator at the ninth level of the spirit martial realm, close to the peak of the vision divine realm. Such a leap. Qin Shujian had only seen it on himself, and he had the source of life to increase. Niu Dali couldn't have the source of life to increase as well. And even if he did, Niu Dali slept in the demon vein every day, so it was impossible for him to get any source of life. So, there was only one explanation. There was still an opportunity on Niu Dali's body that he didn't know about. Originally, Qin Shujian didn't plan to pay attention to him, but now he couldn't ignore him. He was at the ninth level of the spirit martial realm so quickly. The next time they met, wouldn't he be at the god martial realm? And in the future, without him knowing, there might be another celestial. How could he allow others to sleep soundly in his bed? If Niu Dali was really a powerful being of the demon clan, he might have to kill the demon to prevent future troubles, although he had killing intent in his heart. But Qin Shujian didn't show it. The main thing was that Niu Dali was loyal. If he killed him for no reason, it wouldn't be a good thing. As thoughts flashed through his mind, Qin Shujian smiled faintly and said, "If I'm not wrong, Elder Niu seems to have reached the peak of the vision divine realm?" Probably. Niu Dali estimated for a moment, then gave an ambiguous answer. Qin Shujian said, "I want to ask, how did Elder Niu's realm increase so quickly?" "I don't know either. Anyway, while I was sleeping, I broke through." Niu Dali touched the horns on his head and said with a simple and honest face, even though he was at the ninth level of the spirit martial realm, his transformation was still incomplete. The symbol of the demon clan still existed. While he was sleeping, he broke through. Hearing that, the corner of Qin Shujian's mouth twitched a little. He had thought of all kinds of answers, and even some evasive words, but he never thought that Niu Dali would say that. At this time, Qin Shujian didn't beat around the bush and directly asked, "Elder Niu, which Almighty reincarnated from? Since you're an elder of my Yuan sect's demon bloodline, then there are some things that I should know." Sect Master means that I'm the reincarnation of an Almighty? Niu Dali's face was filled with doubt. Qin Shujian, who was at the main seat, had a faint smile. Seeing that, Niu Dali's heart was also stunned. Reincarnation of an Almighty. To be honest, he had never thought about that and didn't think that he would be the reincarnation of an Almighty. But Qin Shujian's words made Niu Dali have a different idea in his heart. While sleeping, he could break through. Could he really be the reincarnation of an Almighty? Thinking of that, Niu Dali stroked the horns on his head and said solemnly, "I won't lie to Sect Master. To be honest, I don't know anything." Looking at Niu Dali's expression, in Qin Shujian's mind, the words that the human emperor said to him before couldn't help but appear. Innate intelligence. Could it be that Niu Dali belongs to that kind of expert who hasn't awakened innate intelligence? He wasn't sure. But looking at Niu Dali's expression, he didn't seem to be faking it. It's okay if Niu Dali can't remember. I just hope that when Elder Niu awakens innate intelligence in the future, he can remember that you're the elder of the demon bloodline of our sect." Qin Shujian said calmly. Niu Dali heard that and took a deep breath. "Sect Master, you can rest assured that even if I awaken the so-called innate intelligence, it won't be detrimental to the sect at all. Although he was simple and honest, he also knew what Qin Shujian's concerns were. At this moment, if the other party killed him, he would have nothing to say. Now Qin Shujian didn't take action because of his identity as the elder of the demon bloodline. Niu Dali was also clear about these things in his heart. Qin Shujian nodded, and then there was a faint smile on his face. With Elder Niu's words, "I'm relieved. I hope that you and I won't be enemies in the future." "Sect Master, don't worry. Well, you can go back." Seeing this, Qin Shujian didn't have the desire to continue the conversation. Niu Dali got up and left. Soon, he was the only one left in the inherited martial hall. "The reincarnation of a mighty figure, I think so. I only hope that you and I won't be enemies in the future." Qin Shujian's expression was indescribable. If he were to kill the other party just based on a groundless guess, he would not do such a thing. Of course, this also showed that he had great confidence in himself. Even if Niu Dali was the reincarnation of a mighty figure, he definitely wouldn't improve as fast as him. When he became a mighty figure, even if Niu Dali recovered the cultivation of his previous life, Qin Shujian wouldn't be afraid. However, what really puzzled Qin Shujian was, if Niu Dali was really the reincarnation of a mighty figure, then which mighty figure of the demon clan would he be? Compared to the human clan's experts, there were also many experts of the demon clan in the past. It wasn't easy to speculate which mighty figure of the demon clan the other party was the reincarnation of. It can't be a demon emperor. Suddenly, a thought popped up in Qin Shujian's mind. This thought also gave him a fright. Demon emperor. Now he was sure that the demon emperor of the demon clan had indeed fallen. Otherwise, the last time the human emperor attacked the demon clan's abdomen, the demon emperor didn't appear. 10,000 years ago, there were many experts of the demon clan. But 10,000 years later, there seemed to be only one demon emperor who had fallen among the demon clan. As for Eagle Saint and the others, they had just died and their souls were destroyed by the human emperor. There was no chance for them to be reincarnated. If Niu Dali wasn't the reincarnation of an expert from 10,000 years ago, then the probability of him being the reincarnation of a demon emperor was very high. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian's expression became serious and he muttered to himself, "Can he really be a demon emperor? It shouldn't be. Niu Dali doesn't look like a demon emperor at all. And if he is the reincarnation of a demon emperor, why would he be in the Baiyun mansion? Even if he was reincarnated, he should be in the demon clan." For a moment, Qin Shujian's thoughts were a little chaotic. But in his heart, Niu Dali had become the focus of his observation. It didn't matter who the reincarnation was. As long as he didn't harm him, he would turn a blind eye. Even if he was the reincarnation of a demon emperor, it had nothing to do with him. But if he was plotting against Yuanzong, then he couldn't blame Qin Shujian for being ruthless. Soon, in the sect's mission hall, there were missions about the endless mountain range. Until now, there were already many missions about the demon clan. It was hard to attract the attention of others with one more mission or one less mission. However, after seeing the reward of the mission, some people were tempted. Investigate the strange movements of the demon clan a few days ago. You are rewarded with a chance to enter the secret realm. Xiao Junyi looked at the mission reward and was instantly tempted. Secret realm. During this period of time, the hottest topic in the sect was this phrase. Even until now, no one had entered the secret realm. But according to the rumors in the sect, cultivating in the secret realm for a day was enough to increase one's cultivation. Regarding these rumors, Xiao Junyi was also dubious about it. It was just that some time ago, Qin Shujian spent a lot of effort to open up the space secret realm and attracted many experts to come and observe. It was impossible for him to create something useless. So, the rumors about the secret realm being able to increase one's strength were also more convincing. But until now, no one knew what qualifications were needed to enter the secret realm. Therefore, when Xiao Junyi saw the reward of a chance to enter the secret realm, he instantly had an idea. He came to the mission hall in front of a deacon and showed his identity token. "What mission do you want to take?" Seeing Xiao Junyi's identity token, the deacon's indifferent expression became better. He didn't know Xiao Junyi, but he had to pay attention to Shi Jianfeng. Shi Jianfeng's strength could be said to be the strongest among the outer elders. Even among the inner elders, he was the kind that could be counted with one's fingers. Although Shi Jianfeng rarely cared about things, once he took action, he would be merciless. Therefore, no one in the sect wanted to offend him. Some people even wanted to find an opportunity to do Shi Jianfeng a favor and form a good relationship with him. I want to take the mission to investigate the strange movements of the demon clan a few days ago. This mission is not easy, and it is very likely that you will have to go deep into the demon clan's territory. You have to be mentally prepared. The deacon glanced at Xiao Junyi and reminded him. Hearing this, Shi Jianfeng smiled and said, "Don't worry, deacon. I understand." That's good. Young people should train more. The deacon didn't stop him, and he didn't have the right to stop him. He already gave Shi Jianfeng some face by persuading him. Since the other party didn't appreciate it, then forget it. Very soon, after accepting the mission, Shi Jianfeng put away his identity token and turned to leave the mission hall. He then headed towards Cold Mountain City. This time, he would enter the demon clan's territory. He might encounter some danger. Therefore, before he went, he would first go to Cold Mountain City to purchase some supplies in case of emergencies. Following the establishment of Cold Mountain City, 90% of the Yuan sect disciples' transactions were done here. Only a small portion of people would choose to trade privately for certain reasons. Otherwise, they would all be in Cold Mountain City. After Xiao Junyi accepted the mission, many people accepted the same mission. Almost all of them were players. After all, if they went deep into the demon clan's territory, they might die at any time. Players would drop a realm each time they died, but they could still be revived. As for the local sect disciples, if they died in the hands of the demon clan, they would really die. In comparison, players were still more unafraid of death. Just as the Yuan sect was moving, the Baiyun Mansion's army was also gathering in the Cold Mountain Spirit Domain. A large number of troops were stationed. Even if they didn't do anything, the murderous aura gathered together made the atmosphere in the Cold Mountain Spirit Domain a lot more oppressive. Chapter 495. Inside the Skyen Mountains. Xiao Junyi moved forward cautiously. Although he was not in the hinterland of the monster clan, there were many monsters around. Given his current strength, if he was surrounded by demonic beasts, it would be a dead end. Even a god martial arts realm cultivator would have to be careful when facing the monsters in the Skyen Mountains. If he encountered the monster clan, even a heavenly realm cultivator might not be able to escape unscathed. For the human clan, the Skyen Mountains was a forbidden area. However, if the other party did not reveal their identity in advance, it would be very difficult to distinguish between the demon clan and the demonic beasts just by looking at them. After all, there was no difference in appearance between the two except for intelligence. The sword light flashed and a monster in the early stage of true martial realm fell to the ground. Xiao Junyi bent down and touched it briefly. After confirming that there was no beast core, he stood up. Now that he was a little deeper into the Skyen Mountains, the monsters he encountered were generally stronger. Early-stage true martial realm monsters were few and far between. Most of them were at the inner aura realm. The further he went, the strength of these monsters would gradually increase. This was because only powerful demonic beasts had the right to stay close to the demonic beasts. The spirit chi here was denser, which was different from the outer layer. If I want to find out what happened to the monster clan a few days ago, I have to go deep into the monster clan's hinterland or catch a monster to ask. Xiao Junyi thought. Although the monster clan was terrifying, in the hinterland of the monster clan, they were only the top experts. In fact, the ordinary monster clan was not strong. Even if the monster clan was naturally stronger than the human clan, it would not be much stronger. Or else, the monster clan would not have fallen to the point where they were today. Therefore, if he wanted to catch the monster clan, he could only choose those with average strength. Although there was a risk, it was still within his tolerance. On the other side, the army was gathering. This was different from when they supported the imperial city. Now that the human clan had quelled the turmoil, the Baiyun Mansion did not need to leave too many people to guard. Therefore, the army gathered this time directly used 90% of the Baiyun Mansion's strength. Tens of millions of soldiers gathered at the border of the Baiyun Mansion. Liang Mountain Spirit Realm, Yuan Sect. Qin Shujian looked at the murderous aura gathering in the sky with a grave expression. If there was anything else that could threaten a celestial other than a powerhouse of the same level, then military formations would be one of them, especially when it came to killing at this level. Most likely, even ordinary celestials would be suppressed by the murderous aura. Such power was terrifying, but it made sense. After all, the imperial court could not just rely on the celestial being on the surface to suppress the world. Compared to the vastness of the Great Zhao, the number of celestials was far too few. Even if it was distributed evenly, it would at most serve as a deterrent on the surface. The ones who were truly suppressing the four directions were the armies of the various regions. In the main sect, all martial artists above LV3 of the true martial realm are to gather in the martial arts practice field. Martial artists above LV3 of the true martial realm in all branches are to get ready. After watching for a long time, Qin Shujian flew up into the air, and his voice resounded in all directions. After saying this, more than 10 powerful auras rose in succession, and they all replied, "Yes, sir." These people were the elders of the Yuan sect. Immediately, the experts of the sect moved. Some of the disciples had grave expressions, while others looked regretful. They were all well aware of what it meant to gather at this time. Or rather, everyone in the Mount Liang domain who heard this voice understood what the Yuan sect was planning. Unfortunately, I'm just a little bit away from breaking through to LV4 of the true martial realm and officially stepping into the inner energy realm. Some disciples complained helplessly. It was clear that only cultivators above LV3 of the true martial realm were qualified to participate in this attack on the demon race. As for those below that level, they did not have the right to participate. In many people's view, attacking the demon race meant great benefits. Everyone wanted this opportunity. But in Qin Shujian's view, although the human race had a high chance of victory in this attack on the demon race was not truly a soft persimmon that could be pinched at will. A battle of this level, unless it was a large army in a military formation, it would be safer to at least condense inner energy. As for military formations, they were not something that ordinary people could come into contact with. Moreover, even if Qin Shujian had the confidence to deduce military formations, it would not be easy to practice them. Look at the entire human race. Only the imperial court's army was qualified to use military formations. The reason for this was that even if the other sects had military formations, it would not be cost-effective for them to display their individual strength. In the drill hall, a group of disciples gathered. Qin Shujian looked at the murderous aura in front of him and said in a deep voice, "Today is the day that the human race will launch a large-scale attack on the demon race. No one is allowed to hold back. Our goal is to exterminate the demon race. We will obey the sect master's order. Well, let's go." Qin Shujian nodded and then gave the order. He did not say too much because there was no need to. The hatred between the human race and the demon race had been going on for a long time. Even 10,000 years ago, the two sides stood on opposite sides. This time, the battle. Either the human race would be defeated or the demon race would be destroyed. There was no other outcome besides the former. As for what would happen if the human race was defeated, it was also tacitly agreed by everyone. Soon, the Yuan sect cultivators moved out in large numbers. On the other side, the army also began to go deep into the Skyan mountains. When the Yuan sect people met the army, both sides tacitly did not disturb each other. Instead, they seemed to be working together to fight the enemy. Everyone knew. The main force of the attack on the demon race this time was the imperial court's army, and the others were just assisting from the side. In the sky above the army, the experts were flying in the sky, guarding against the attacks of the demon race from all directions. At this time, Qin Shujian did not go anywhere. Instead, he met up with Marquis Bayun and other experts from the imperial court. "Sect Master Qin is here." "Greetings, Marquis Bayun." Qin Shujian smiled and cupped his hands. Beside Marquis Bayun was a group of experts from the Marquis Bayun mansion. Among them, Li Guang'an, Su Mingyang, and the others were among them. When they saw Qin Shujian, these people also cupped their hands and saluted. "Greetings, Sect Master Qin." It was different from the past. The current Qin Shujian was already a celestial being expert. Even if they were from the Marquis Bayun mansion, they still had to maintain a respectful attitude. At this time, someone had already come forward with a demon beast for Qin Shujian to ride. The demon beast was not weak. It was in existence in the airborne realm. When Qin Shujian rode on it, the demon beast's body trembled, and there was a flash of fear in its bell-like eyes. These demon beasts had been domesticated by the human race, so they were no longer fierce. However, the demon beast's instinct to seek luck and avoid danger still existed. Even though Qin Shujian did not reveal his celestial being aura, the faintly discernible aura was still enough to make this demon beast feel afraid. As the army attacked, Qin Shujian and Marquis Bayun were in the middle of the army. As the army surged, they walked side by side. In your opinion, what are our chances of winning against the demon race this time? The demon beast's back rose and fell slightly as it walked. Qin Shujian turned his head to look at Marquis Bayun and asked with a faint smile. Hearing this, Marquis Bayun shook his head and said, if all the demon saints were here, there would be many variables in this battle. But now that the demon race's strength has been greatly reduced, they no longer have the capital to contend against the human race. In his opinion, this time, the demon race would definitely lose. However, in Marquis Bayun's eyes, the demon race had never been the biggest threat to the human race. It was not in the past, and it was not now. Even when the human emperor faked his death, the human race was in chaos, and the demon race took the opportunity to attack the 13 prefectures of the great Zhao dynasty. He still did not think so. In Marquis Bayun's mind, the real threat was the demon abyss that was constantly approaching this world. The demon abyss that had once caused the collapse of the ancient, heavenly court and all the immortals to fall together. Although the human emperor's power was vast, and the great Zhao dynasty's aura was flourishing, it was still far inferior to the ancient heavenly court. Although the human emperor was strong, in the end, he did not become an immortal. If such a force faced the entire demon abyss, the human race would instantly fall into a state of defeat. However, these things, Marquis Bayun did not say too much to Qin Shujian. In his opinion, although Qin Shujian's foundation was strong and his strength was not weak, he was still a little weak when it came to the demon abyss. If possible, it would be better to know less and have less troubles. Even Marquis Bayun himself hoped that he did not know about the demon abyss. However, there were no ifs. Since he knew, he had to take on this big responsibility. As for the human emperor, in Marquis Bayun's opinion, the other party should also be aware of the existence of the demon abyss. After all, according to Zhu Bing, the other party had obtained the legacy of the ancient heavenly court and the confrontation with the demon race some time ago. The means used by the human emperor also confirmed this point. Maybe the human emperor wants to imitate the ancient heavenly court and reunite the human race powerhouses to fight against the demon abyss. Marquis Bayun secretly shook his head. Obviously, the human emperor's current actions were not to avoid the battle. Some things could be seen from the time when the shadow of the ancient heavenly court was condensed. On the other side, Qin Shujian could also see some things from Marquis Bayun's thoughtful expression. However, since the other party did not say anything, he could not ask too much. At this moment, the army continued to go deeper and deeper, and they encountered more and more demonic beasts. Some of these demonic beasts were hit by the murderous aura of the army and fled in fear, while others were hit by the murderous aura and rushed over crazily. Kill! Niu Feng slashed out with his saber. The saber aura cut through the void and directly killed a demonic beast that had just entered the spiritual martial realm. With the promotion of the sect, his strength also soared after he broke through to the peak of the spiritual martial realm. In addition, the Yuan sect had many powerful martial arts techniques. Unless it was a demonic beast of the same realm, a demonic beast that had just entered the spiritual martial realm was no match for him at all. He scanned with his divine thought. Niu Feng raised his long saber and grabbed a palm-sized beast core in his hand. The first demonic beast has a beast core. Not bad. Looking at the beast core in his hand, a smile appeared on his face. With the reform of the contribution system in the sect, those disciples lacked contribution points, and so did the elders. If they wanted to exchange for cultivation elixirs or powerful martial arts techniques, contribution points were indispensable. However, as an elder, Niu Feng would not casually fight with the disciples for demonic beasts. He would only fight when he encountered demonic beasts that had reached the spiritual martial realm. Besides that, he paid more attention to the changes in the surroundings. If a disciple was in danger, he would rescue them in time. Battles were happening almost all the time. Although there were many demonic beasts, they were not much help compared to the experts of the human clan. The army kept advancing. Many demonic beasts were also slaughtered. However, the smiles on the faces of Marquis Baiyun and Qin Shujian gradually disappeared and turned solemn. What are the demon clan doing? Qin Shujian looked solemn. Although there were many demonic beasts in front of them, they were very scattered. After all, although demonic beasts were low level, they were still one of the main forces of the demon clan. If the demonic beasts were slaughtered by them, the demon clan would not have the capital to fight against the human clan. Marquis Baiyun also frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Send scouts out to investigate the situation." On the other side, Li Guang'an and the others cupped their hands and accepted the order. Qin Shujian said, "A few days ago, the demon clan had some strange movements. Is it related to this matter?" "It's hard to say." Marquis Baiyun shook his head. He also knew about the strange movements of the demon clan, but he did not send anyone to investigate. After all, the hinterland of the demon clan. It was not easy to go in. At this moment, the armies of the other prefectures also advanced, going deep into the hinterland of the demon clan. Beside the human emperor, Dan Hao said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, the demon clan has not shown up so far. Only some demonic beasts have scattered in all directions. I don't know what they are planning to do. Attack with all your strength. I want to see what other tricks the demon clan has." The human emperor's expression was as usual. When he looked into the depths of the endless mountain range, there were some subtle changes in his eyes. The current demon clan, they were not taken seriously by him. In a mountain forest, Xiao Junyi dodged an airborne realm demonic beast and then walked out of the dark with a puzzled look on his face. How can it be? After going deep into the endless mountain range for so long, this should be the hinterland of the demon clan. Why is there not a single demon clan? The hinterland of the demon clan should be the place where the demon clan gathered. Not to say that the demon clan was everywhere, but it was impossible for them to not encounter a single demon clan after walking for so long. He suppressed the doubts in his heart. Xiao Junyi continued to go deep into the endless mountain range, trying to find out some movements. Half a day later, the doubts in Xiao Junyi's heart did not lessen. Instead, they became heavier and heavier. Could it be that all the demon clan in the endless mountain range have run away? He could not help but have this thought in his heart. They had run away. If the demon clan had really run away, where could they have run to? The endless mountain range was only so big. With the huge base of the demon clan, even if they ran to other places, it was impossible for them to not leave any traces. On the other side, as the armies of the various prefectures sent out scouts, the corresponding news also came back. "Marquis, the scouts in front have sent news that they did not see any traces of the demon clan at all." Li Guang'an returned to report. "Not a single demon clan?" "No." "Pass down my order. All the armies advance at full speed. I want to see what tricks the demon clan is playing." Marquis Baiyun waved his hand and directly gave the order. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Guang'an accepted the order and left. Then, the army that was still killing the demon clan in an orderly manner sped up and headed towards the hinterland of the demon clan. As for Qin Shujian, now, his heart was also filled with doubts. The human army came to attack, but there was not a single demon clan. Such a situation, he could not help but wonder if the demon clan had already run away in advance. However, although the Skyen mountain range was vast, there was also a limit. Now that the humans were attacking with all their strength, even if the demon clan had escaped, where could they go? Then, Qin Shujian took out the communication jade token and sent some messages. On the other side, Zhang Feng took out the communication jade token and read the message inside. Then, he immediately gave the order. "Everyone, Stop killing the demon clan and focus on collecting resources. After that, he looked a little confused and muttered to himself, the demon clan has escaped? That can't be. As for Qin Shujian's message, Zhang Fong did not have any doubts. He just could not believe the news that the demon clan had escaped. However, now that the demon clan was very likely to have escaped, the next thing to do was to collect resources in the Skyen mountain range. After all, there were many resources here. Even if the demon clan had escaped, it was impossible to collect all the resources. This time, Yuan Zhong did not come here purely to kill the demon clan. As a human, since the two clans were at war, he should do his part. However, Yuan Zhong's main purpose was to collect resources. On the other side, the news of the demon clan's escape had already spread. The human emperor immediately ordered all the troops to advance at full speed. Your Majesty, the world is only so big. Where can the demon clan escape to? Dan Hao frowned deeply and looked puzzled. The Skyen mountain range was not really endless. Even the world had an end, let alone a mountain range. Even if this mountain range was vast and boundless, comparable to the great Zhao country, there was still a limit. Moreover, there were many demon clans, not much less than the human clan. Under such circumstances, even if the demon clan had moved on a large scale, it was impossible for them not to leave any traces. Therefore, in his opinion, the demon clan's actions were really strange. The demon clan has a long history. It's not strange for them to have some secret methods. The human emperor said calmly. After that, he did not say anything else. Seeing this, Dan Hao did not say anything else. As for Shi Yang, who was behind him, he completely treated him as an invisible person. He suddenly realized that it seemed to be quite good to be a crown prince for 10,000 years. At least if the sky collapsed, his father would be in front of him. As for the throne, to be honest, Shi Yang was not too attached to it now. Those who did not sit on that throne would never know how much they had to pay to sit on that throne. As the human emperor gave the order, the armies of the various prefectures also received the message. Subsequently, the human clan army drove towards the demon clan's abdomen. The Skyen mountain range was indeed vast and boundless. Even if the army drove for nearly half a month, they still did not reach the real end. However, along the way, they killed many monsters, but they did not see a single demon clan figure. Until now, everyone had already known that the demon clan had escaped. A month later, the armies of the various prefectures finally gathered in the demon clan's hinterland. Your Majesty. When the armies gathered, Marquis Baiyun also went to see the human emperor immediately. As for Qin Shujian, it was the same. He did not know if it was because he had seen the human emperor many times or for some other reason, but when he saw the human emperor again, he was not so nervous. It seems that the demon clan has indeed escaped. The human emperor looked at everything in front of him with a cold expression. Hearing this, Marquis Baiyun asked, there are so many demons. Even if they have escaped, it's impossible for them not to have left any traces after such a long time, right? If the demon clan is still in this world, they naturally would have left some clues. Your Majesty, what do you mean? Marquis Baiyun's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely had some guesses about the human emperor's words. As for Qin Shujian and the other experts of the imperial court, they were also shocked. Still in this world? Does this mean that there are other worlds? Seeing everyone's confusion, the human emperor explained, in the past, this world was vast and boundless. It was many times larger than the current territory of the human clan and the demon clan. However, in ancient times, there was an expert who shattered this world. Naturally, when this world was shattered, some parts of it were destroyed, but some parts of it survived. And the land under our feet is one of them. In fact, there are other worlds outside our world. They have the same root, but they are blocked by the restriction of heaven and earth. If I'm not wrong, the demon clan should have used the power of Zhu Bing to forcefully break the restriction and escape to another world. The others had never heard of the existence of other worlds. Now that the human emperor said it, they all felt like they were in a dream. Even Qin Shujian's face was full of surprise. In the second world, it turned out that the demon clan had fled to the second world. No wonder they couldn't find a single demon clan member. As for the human emperor's words, Qin Shujian didn't have much doubt, because they hadn't met a single demon clan member in the past month, which actually explained a lot of things. As for the strange phenomenon a few days ago, now he had some guesses in his heart. That should be the movement caused by the demon clan's departure to the second world. Qin Shujian originally thought that the demon clan had some backup plan to deal with the attack of the human clan. He didn't expect that they would escape directly. Then, Shiyang asked, "Father, now that the demon clan has escaped, what should we do? Are you guys willing to follow me to the end of the endless mountain range to take a look?" The human emperor asked. "We're willing to." "Then come over." After the human emperor said that, his body turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. In the next moment, Shiyang and the others followed closely behind the human emperor. They were also very curious about the end of the endless mountain range. As for Qin Shujian, he didn't stay either as his body turned into a stream of light and escaped. The second world. From the looks of it, the human emperor already knew about the existence of the second world. Many thoughts surged in his mind, including what the human emperor said to Eagle Sage in the Imperial City when he faked his death back then. The human emperor faked his death. It wasn't just for the demon clan. With the methods that the human emperor displayed previously, even if he attacked in a tough manner, the demon clan might not be able to withstand it. Coupled with the current situation, Qin Shujian already had a guess in his mind. The human emperor's purpose of faking his death wasn't the demon clan. The other party's true goal might be the second world that he mentioned. Chapter 496. At the end of the Earth-End Mountains, Qin Shujian had always thought that it would be the same as the boundary between heaven and earth. However, when he really came here, he found that it was completely different. The void in front of him was violently distorted, and there seemed to be a black river flowing behind it. Besides, heaven and earth seemed to have turned into a line here, and the height of the sky and the ground was constantly being pulled closer. Is it the fall of the sky? Or the bulge of the earth? Looking at the scene in front of him, Qin Shujian was shocked. For a moment, he couldn't figure out what caused this situation. At the end of the distorted void and the black river, heaven and earth seemed to have merged into a long line. This was a strange phenomenon. Not only was Qin Shujian shocked, but even the human emperor and the others were amazed. Heaven and earth turned into a line. This method is really amazing. The human emperor couldn't help but sigh. Even with his current realm and means, he couldn't help but sigh at this kind of thing. An expert asked, "Your Majesty, do you mean that there is a second world behind the end of the Earth-End Mountains?" "Yes and no. Your Majesty, please enlighten us." In fact, it's not very accurate to say that there is a second world. To be precise, our world and the world at the end of the Earth-End Mountains are a whole. A whole? Hearing this, many people were shocked again. What did he mean? Everyone, including Marquis Baiyun, had some doubts about the human emperor's words. In response, the human emperor said with a solemn expression, "After heaven and earth were shattered, it turned into 4 continents. The eastern continent is where we are, and the other 3 continents are at the end of the Earth-End Mountains. The 4 continents used to be connected, but at some point, the eastern continent was separated from the other 3 continents. The heaven and earth restriction in front of us is the existence that separates the eastern continent from the other 3 continents. Once the restriction is broken, the eastern continent will be reunited with the other 3 continents." Hearing this, the others finally had some understanding of it. However, after understanding it, they were more shocked and worried. The eastern continent had the human clan and the monster clan. What races did the other 3 continents have? How strong were these races compared to the human clan and the monster clan? If the heaven and earth restriction was broken, what would happen to the human clan? Until now, some people already understood what the human emperor's goal was. Danhao suppressed the shock in his heart and asked, "Your Majesty wants to open the heaven and earth restriction formation. What do you think? What do the other 3 continents have?" "I don't know." The human emperor shook his head and said straightforwardly, The eastern continent has been separated from the other three continents for tens of thousands of years. No one knows exactly what the other three continents have. Maybe it's a human, maybe it's a demon, maybe it's some other race. As for these races, maybe the divine martial arts realm is the strongest, and maybe the celestial being realm is the peak. But we can't rule out the possibility that there are masters who have surpassed the celestial being realm. Before breaking the heaven and earth inhibition, no one knows what is in the three continents. Although he knew of the existence of the three great continents, so many years had passed and so many things had changed. The three continents might have already turned into a land of death. That might not be the case. In general, everything was unknown. In response, someone immediately said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, then if we rashly break the restrictions of the world, I'm afraid it will cause unpredictable changes." "Your Majesty's previous preparations were for the other three continents?" someone asked. The human emperor nodded slightly and said bluntly, "That's right. My goal is the other three continents. The eastern continent is very big, but it's still too small for the current human race. In ancient times, the world was still intact. At that time, there were many human masters. Although the celestial being realm was the backbone of the human race, their numbers were definitely not something that can be compared to now. But now, there are only a few celestial being masters in the world. As for those above the celestial being realm, there is not a single one. The reason is that this world is too small, so small that it can't accommodate so many masters. What the human race needs now is a wider world to face the great calamity in the future. Above the celestial being realm. Great calamity. Qin Shujian accurately caught the two words in the human emperor's words. Before he could speak, someone had already asked, "Your Majesty, do you mean that there is a path above the celestial being realm?" "There is naturally a path above the celestial being realm. May I ask, Your Majesty, what is above the celestial being realm?" When the other party asked that question, the others also pricked up their ears. What was above the celestial being realm? They were also very curious. The human emperor said softly, "Immortal. Above the celestial being realm is immortal." In ancient times, immortals were the top masters. Unfortunately, with the decline of the human race, there are no immortals now. Immortal. Except for Marquis Bayun, the others all looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Qin Shujian couldn't help but ask, "Your Majesty, immortals really exist? Immortals naturally exist?" The human emperor answered with certainty. Qin Shujian said, "Then, Your Majesty, have you reached the immortal realm now?" "It's easier said than done to become an immortal." The human emperor took a deep look at him and finally shook his head. Regarding this, the excitement in the hearts of the others gradually cooled down. Even someone as strong as the human emperor couldn't reach the immortal realm. So even if they knew that the celestial being realm was not the end, how many people could become immortals? Not to mention immortals. Among the people present, how many were confident that they could break through and reach the limit of the celestial being realm? But even so, these people had a new idea in their hearts. It turned out that the celestial being realm was not the end. Above the celestial being realm, there was a mortal. Qin Shujian, who was on the side, heard this and had a lot of thoughts in his heart. He had long guessed that the celestial being realm was not the end. When the human emperor easily killed the demon saint and then condensed the shadow of the ancient heavenly court and exerted a power that far exceeded that of a celestial being, he knew that the strength of the human emperor was definitely not that simple. However, what Qin Shujian didn't expect was that even someone as strong as the human emperor hadn't reached the immortal realm. Compared to others, he still had great hope in whether he could become an immortal or not. No matter how difficult it was to become an immortal, as long as he had enough life source, Qin Shujian would be able to become an immortal for others to see. However, according to Qin Shujian's estimation, if he wanted to accumulate enough life source to become an immortal, it would probably be an astronomical figure. In addition to becoming an immortal, at this time, Xiang couldn't help but ask, "Father, what is the great tribulation you mentioned? With the current strength of the human race, who can threaten us?" If the human race was really strong, How could they have fallen to such a state? The human emperor glanced at him and shook his head. There is an existence that can threaten the human race, but anyone that can threaten the human race is definitely not to be underestimated. Father, are you talking about the demon abyss? Shiyang was not a stupid person. When the human emperor said this, he could vaguely guess something. However, when he said this sentence, he was also shocked by himself. The demon abyss. Although with the birth of heaven and earth, there had always been demons born, but the demon abyss was still quite far away from the human race. The number of demons born each time was not many. Even if these demons were not weak, the human race's experts were stronger. Every time a demon was born, it didn't cause much of a stir and was forcibly suppressed. The demon abyss is very strong. It's not as simple as you think. The human emperor glanced at the others and said indifferently, "You should know that the great Zhao Zubing suppressed the seal at the entrance to the demon abyss." Hearing this, many people nodded. Although the matter of the great Zhao Zubing suppressing the seal at the entrance to the demon abyss was a secret, as officials of the imperial court, they all knew about this. However, there were not many people who really knew the location of the seal. Qin Shujian knew about it for the first time. It turned out that the great Zhao still suppressed the seal at the demon abyss. This matter is really secretive. He was secretly complaining now. When he wasn't with the human emperor and the others, Qin Shujian thought that he was quite knowledgeable. When he stood with these people, he realized that he didn't seem to know anything. If it weren't for this moment, there were many things that Qin Shujian was still in the dark about. What about the 4 great continents? What about the seal at the entrance to the demon abyss? What about the immortals above the celestials? If the human emperor hadn't mentioned it, with the imperial court's strict lockdown of information, he might not have known about it even if he was given a few more decades. The human emperor said, "What you think is the entrance to the demon abyss is actually just a small hole that connects the demon abyss to this world." As he spoke, the human emperor gestured, raised his pinky, and then pinched the end of his pinky, describing it very vividly. However, such a small hole has endless power leaking out. If it weren't for Zhu Bing suppressing it, then the demon qi would leak out from it and then invade the whole world. At that time, whether it's the human race or the demon race, they would all be eroded by the demon qi. The human realm would also become a purgatory. Qin Shujian felt that his breathing was a little rapid. A small hole connecting the demon abyss to the world needed Zhu Bing to suppress it. If it was really the entrance to the demon abyss, then no one could suppress it. And now, people like Shiyang and the others were also shocked. The main reason why they weren't worried about the demon abyss was that the demon abyss didn't have the chance to come to this world, and the demons bred in it couldn't touch the human race. The lowest level of demons was the celestial being. This kind of starting point was completely unreasonable. But because the world had its own rules, demons couldn't set foot here unscrupulously. Occasionally, a few demons would step in, but to them, it didn't affect them much. Shi Yang's heart trembled. When the human emperor finished speaking, he couldn't help but ask, "The great calamity that Imperial Father spoke of, is there another entrance to the demon abyss that we can't seal with our strength?" Entrance? If there really is an entrance, then that's good. The human emperor sneered. Then, looking at the expressions of the crowd, the faint smile on his face disappeared, and he became solemn. The world is constantly evolving, and the distance between it and the demon abyss is getting closer and closer. It won't be long before the world completely collides with the demon abyss. At that time, all the demons in the demon abyss will officially set foot here. At that time, if the human race doesn't have enough strength to resist, then everyone will die. This includes all of you, and also this emperor. Boom! A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. No one had expected that the great calamity that the human emperor had spoken of would be even more terrifying than they had imagined. The world and the demon abyss collided. All the demons would set foot in the world. No one knew how many demons there were in the demon abyss. But from the number of demons that had been sealed in the Great Zhao, one could guess some things. Inside the demon abyss, there were at least tens of thousands of demons. In other words, it wouldn't be long before tens of thousands of celestials attacked the human race. Even Marquis Bayun had an extremely solemn expression at this time. Although he had known about this for a long time, when the human emperor mentioned it again, he also felt a strong pressure. He was very strong now. A mighty figure was already the top of the human race. But so what if he was strong? The ancient heavenly court had 365 immortals, powerhouses from tens of thousands of races, and even the Emperor of Heaven. In the end, when they faced the demon abyss, the ancient heavenly court was still defeated. In the end, they forced the Emperor of Heaven to cut off the world, and at the price of the heavenly court's collapse, the other races were barely able to survive. Facing the demon abyss, not to mention a mighty figure, even an immortal would not be a match for it. Therefore, if they wanted to fight against the demon abyss, they had to have more power than the ancient heavenly court. Marquis Bayun's gaze fell on the human emperor. He knew that the human emperor wanted to imitate the Emperor of Heaven and rebuild the ancient heavenly court. But in his opinion, it was still unknown whether the human emperor could be comparable to the Emperor of Heaven and rebuild the glory of the human race. However, the human emperor was still the most promising person for the human race. At this time, Qin Shujian was completely in a state of confusion. What did this mean? The demon abyss was about to attack? But until now, he didn't know about this matter. Originally, Qin Shujian was quite satisfied with his cultivation progress because he had broken through to the celestial being level, and the pressure had also lessened a lot. Although he had also expected the consequences of the demon abyss, but it was beyond his expectations. When his expectations became reality, there was only one sentence in his heart, but he didn't know if he should say it. So, soon, I will be worse than a dog? Qin Shujian complained in his heart. He had just broken through to the celestial being level not long ago, and the demon abyss was about to come. With his current strength, if he was in front of the demon abyss, he would die. In an instant, a huge pressure emerged from the bottom of his heart. My strength is still not enough. If I want to fight against the demon abyss, there must be at least tens of thousands of celestials in front of me, or even more. To deal with such a situation, I need to at least become an immortal. But can immortals really deal with the demon abyss? A doubt arose in Qin Shujian's heart. Immortals, could they really deal with the demon abyss? He wasn't sure. However, he wouldn't ask the human emperor. Whether or not immortals could deal with the demon abyss, they wouldn't answer him directly. Because if immortals couldn't deal with the demon abyss, and others found out, the morale that the human race had accumulated with great difficulty would probably collapse by more than half. After all, in Qin Shujian's view, the human emperor said these words to create a sense of pressure for them, so as to pave the way for breaking the restrictions of heaven and earth. But this kind of pressure had to be controlled. It couldn't be too weak, but it couldn't be too strong either. If it was too weak, it wouldn't have the desired effect. If it was too strong, it would easily crush the human race's mentality. Therefore, Qin Shujian knew what was going on, but he wouldn't openly ask about it. The human emperor said loudly, "The collision of heaven and earth and the demon abyss is an irreversible thing. To deal with the demons, the human race needs more power. The eastern continent's heaven and earth are too small now. Although the spirit qi is abundant, it's not easy to give birth to more heavenly humans. Therefore, only by breaking the restrictions of heaven and earth and merging with the other three continents can we give birth to more heavenly humans, and even open the path to immortal ascension. As for what the three continents have, it's actually not within our consideration. Even if the three continents have races that are not weaker than the human race, or even stronger than the human race, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. After all, the descent of the demon abyss isn't just a matter of the eastern continent. The stronger the four continents are, the higher our chances of winning against the demon abyss in the future." Since he had already said this much, the others had no reason to object. Indeed, breaking the restrictions of heaven and earth and connecting the three continents had too many uncertainties. But just as the human emperor said, if the human race did not become stronger and face the demon abyss in their current state, only death would await them. Connecting the three continents, it might be a disaster, but it could also be a great opportunity. So, Marquis Bayun, Shi Yang, and the others did not object. And they were very clear. The human emperor must have planned this. The original fake death was probably to get rid of all the unstable factors and then unite the human race to face the other 3 continents in their strongest state. Or else, once the restrictions of heaven and earth were broken, if the 3 continents also had powerful forces, and the great Zhao Empire fought with these forces, there would be a lot of trouble. What a ruthless heart! Qin Shujian also thought through the human emperor's actions, and his heart became more solemn. For a possibility in the future, he was willing to fake his death to lure others to jump out. One had to know. This time, the number of people who died in the rebellion was not limited to just a few dukes. The number of people who died in the war was in the millions. These people who died in the war all became sacrifices of the human emperor's plan. But whether it was Qin Shujian or the others, they had no way of blaming him. Because what the human emperor did was for the sake of the entire human race. Sacrificing a group of people, giving more people in exchange for a chance. It was difficult to distinguish between right and wrong in this kind of thing. From their point of view, the human emperor's actions were not wrong. Qin Shujian put himself in the human emperor's shoes and wondered if he would do the same if he were the human emperor. The final result was the same as the other party. As expected, I am not a soft-hearted person. Qin Shujian laughed at himself in his heart. He was also a ruthless person. It was no wonder that the human emperor was ruthless. As for Marquis Baiyun and the others, their expressions were normal. Although they knew the human emperor's thoughts, no one thought that this was inappropriate. Sacrificing the rook to save the king. This was what should be done. And from Marquis Baiyun's point of view, the human emperor's actions were no different from the actions of the Emperor of Heaven in the ancient heavenly court. The only difference was that the human race had not yet reached the desperate situation in the ancient times. Therefore, strictly speaking, the human emperor's actions were much more benevolent than that of the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven had shattered the Emperor of Heaven and killed hundreds of millions of living beings, including countless races. The human emperor's fake death this time was the sacrifice of millions of people. But such a sacrifice was in exchange for a hope of survival for the human race. And the Emperor of Heaven's actions were also to preserve the last bit of bloodline, so that all the races would not be wiped out by the demons. Then, Dan Hao asked, "What does your majesty plan to do? I want to build a big city here within a year and prepare to station troops. A year later, I will officially break the taboo of heaven and earth. At that time, the human race will face the other 3 continents." The human emperor revealed his plan. Hearing this, the people of the imperial court bowed and accepted the order. Then, the human emperor looked at Qin Shujian and said, "This time, I'll have to trouble Sect Master Qin to open a teleportation gate here first to teleport back and forth." Qin Shujian was stunned at first, but he quickly reacted and said, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. Leave this matter to me. These are some materials for opening a teleportation gate. I'll give them to you together." The human emperor took out a storage ring from somewhere and handed it over. Qin Shujian reached out and took it. With his divine sense, he had already recognized the storage ring as its owner. When his spiritual consciousness probed the inside of the storage ring, everything inside appeared in his perception. When he saw these materials, Qin Shujian thought to himself, the human emperor is well prepared. Did he determine that the demon race would escape, or was he preparing to immediately open a teleportation gate here after destroying the demon race? There were many materials in the storage ring. Not to mention opening a teleportation gate. Even opening 8 or 10 wouldn't be a problem. After withdrawing his divine sense from the storage ring, Qin Shujian looked at the human emperor and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, how do you want me to open it? What do you think? From today's time in the endless mountains to now, the distance we have traveled is endless. If we want to connect the teleportation gate to the Great Zhao Empire, we need at least 2 or 3 teleportation gates." Qin Shujian estimated for a moment and then continued. "In my opinion, it's better to connect a single formation to the Cold Mountain City. When the time comes, Your Majesty will send other formation masters to complete the teleportation gate. In this way, it will be convenient to build the city." "Okay, then it's decided." The human emperor nodded and directly agreed with Qin Shujian's words. The rest of the matter was much simpler. After getting the human emperor's approval, Qin Shujian directly chose a suitable place and then took out the corresponding materials. After a little adjustment, he immediately opened a teleportation gate. It was different from the first time he opened a teleportation gate. As he broke through to the second level of the Grandmaster realm, it became easier to open a teleportation gate. It took less than 3 hours in total. A teleportation gate had been formed. When Qin Shujian opened the teleportation gate, the human emperor and the others turned around and returned. On the other side, after Qin Shujian silently memorized the coordinates of the first teleportation gate, he immediately rushed in the direction of Baiyun Mansion. When he was almost there, he stopped and opened the second teleportation gate. He waited until later. After opening the third teleportation gate, he connected it with the coordinates of Cold Mountain City. At this point, only then was the connection between the Great Zhao Empire and the hinterland of the demon race. Chapter 497. The 3 teleportation arrays connected the hinterland of the demon race, but only connected the Baiyun Mansion and the hinterland of the demon race. Later, it would connect the various manors. That would be the imperial court's business. Qin Shujian kept the rest of the materials in the storage ring as a reward for Li Mu. This point was tacitly agreed by both sides. After all, how could there be no price to pay for inviting a formation master? After finishing these things, Qin Shujian did not return to the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain, but wandered in the Endless Mountain Range. The demon race had escaped, but the Endless Mountain Range was still the place with the most resources. If he did not take some now, when would he be able to? What's more, the news of the demon race's escape had already spread, and even the other 3 continents had also spread. The reason why the news spread so quickly. Naturally, the imperial court added fuel to the fire behind the scenes. The human emperor would break the heaven and earth restriction in a year and connect the eastern continent to the other 3 continents. This matter could not be hidden. Rather than not being prepared at all, it was better to let others know now. With a year's buffer, they would not be caught off guard. The matter of the demon abyss. Qin Shujian guessed that the human emperor would not hide too much. Without a great threat, it would be difficult for the human race to be truly united. If there was a threat of the demon abyss in front of them, then the human race would be truly united. The imperial court will not hide the matter of the demon abyss, but they probably won't say it publicly. If I were the human emperor, I would only need to let some powerful sect higher-ups know. As long as these sects know, they can restrain the sects below them, and things will be much simpler. If he could think of it, the human emperor could naturally think of it. However, for Qin Shujian, these things had little to do with him. Whether or not the 3 continents were opened, it did not matter to him. But if the 3 continents were opened, one thing was without doubt, and that was that they could harvest more life sources. And would the 3 continents be so powerful that the human race could not stop them? According to Qin Shujian's estimation, this possibility was not high. The human emperor was confident that he could break the heaven and earth restriction, and it was impossible that he did not have any tricks up his sleeve. The strength that the other party had displayed earlier had already reached an unimaginable level. Although the human emperor denied that he had broken through to the immortal realm, but in Qin Shujian's eyes, Qin Haodong was not a fool. Even though Ren Huang had not become an immortal, he was not far from it. In ancient times, immortals were already at the peak. No matter how strong the 3 continents were, they were at most at the immortal level. Human emperors did not become immortals, but they were definitely not much weaker than real immortals. If they were connected to the 3 continents, even if the human race was at a disadvantage, they would not be in too much danger. Walking in the endless mountains, Qin Shujian's spiritual sense spread out as he continuously searched for possible heavenly treasures. He didn't take big steps, but with each step, he crossed a distance of 100 miles. His divine will sensed. Whenever Qin Shujian sensed a heaven and earth treasure, he would pause and collect it. Oh, this is the mystic flower? Flying snow ghost comb. Not bad, not bad. The flowing gold rock is also a good thing. As he walked through the endless mountain range, He found that there were more things in his storage ring every now and then. Qin Shujian did not let go of any heaven and earth treasure that was level 5 and above. Although to him, unless it was a level 9 heaven and earth treasure, it was useless. Although it was useless to him, it was still very useful to the others in Yuan's sect. He had no use for materials below level 9. When he returned, he could throw it to the people in the sect. Qin Shujian suddenly stopped in his tracks. Then, he took another step and disappeared on the spot. In the next moment, a flat earth vein had already appeared in his line of sight. In the middle of the earth vein was a bottomless pit. There was still rich spirit qi in the pit that overflowed from it, making one feel relaxed and happy just by taking a breath. Spirit stone vein. Qin Shujian recognized the pit at first glance, and the rich spirit qi of heaven and earth also proved this point. However, after looking at it for a while, Qin Shujian shook his head regretfully. There was indeed a spirit stone vein here, but the spirit stones had been dug out. The spirit qi in the pit was just the remnants of the spirit stones. The demon clan left so decisively. They even dug out the spirit stones. If he was not wrong, this should be one of the original habitats of the demon clan. However, as the demon clan fled, the spirit stone vein buried underground was also dug out. Then, Qin Shujian went deep into the mine. After a few minutes, he came out of the mine. With his appearance, the last trace of spiritual energy in the mine also dissipated without a trace. Accordingly, in Qin Shujian's storage ring, there were a few hundred kilograms of companion jade. A treasure hunt. It took nearly 10 days. After the storage ring was full, he set off to return to the Liang Mountain spiritual domain. Along the way, Qin Shujian met many disciples of other sects and also disciples of Yuan's sect, but he did not show up. Instead, he quietly took the treasures away without leaving any traces. When he returned to Yuan's sect, there were still not many disciples in the sect. 10 days was enough for him to collect a lot of resources, but for the other disciples, the harvest in 10 days was not much. Therefore, many people were still staying in the endless mountain range. 4. That was to gather more resources. After returning to the sect, Qin Shujian went directly to the Sundry Hall and threw most of the resources there. Then, he exchanged them for some contribution points and left. Although the contribution points were all obtained by himself, everything had to be followed by a rule. Otherwise, the contribution point system that he had painstakingly established would completely collapse. Boom, boom. Energy exploded, and the two figures suddenly separated. A mere physical aura cultivator dares to snatch the sky heart orchid from me. Gu Zixuan sneered. Spirit God. Lin Jie's eyes were solemn. The long sword in his hand shone brightly, and killing intent seemed to be faintly discernible. Normally speaking, when facing a cultivator at the domain enlightened spirit god realm, the most correct method was to retreat immediately. However, the sky heart orchid was not an ordinary treasure. It was a top-level 8 spiritual herb. Such a spiritual herb could not only be exchanged for a large amount of contribution points, but it could also be exchanged for pills to help him break through to the spirit martial realm. Fighting across realms. It was not an easy thing, especially the gap between physical aura and spirit god. It was even more difficult to make up for. Lin Jie took a deep breath and then sneered. I'm an inner disciple of Yuan's sect. Why don't you give me some face? Having more friends means more paths in the future. Although a mere sky heart orchid is precious, it's not worth it for you and me to fight. Yuan's sect. Gu Zixuan's expression changed instantly. Looking at the clothes that Lin Jie was wearing, his heart was filled with doubt and surprise. He had naturally heard of Yuan's sect's name. However, he had never seen Yuan's sect's disciple clothes. Now, Gu Zixuan could not distinguish whether Lin Jie was real or not. Lin Jie immediately said calmly, there shouldn't be many people in the world who dare to pretend to be Yuan's sect. I'm Yuan's sect's Lin Jie. If you have any doubts, feel free to investigate. As he spoke, he looked at Gu Zixuan's expression and smiled faintly. I owe you a favor for letting me have the sky heart orchid. If there's anything you need in the future, I'll definitely do my best to help. If I'm not wrong, You should be a disciple of the Heavenly Sun sect. Although the virtual Sun sect is in the Fallen Moon Mansion, my sect has always been on good terms with the Heavenly Array sect, so I have some understanding of your sect. When Gu Zixuan heard this, some of the thoughts that had arisen in his heart disappeared. If Linjie did not know his identity and origin, then he would have taken the risk of offending Yuan's sect and snatched the Skyheart Orchid. Anyway, there were so many cultivators in the world, and Yuan's sect could not find him. However, it was different now. Linjie had recognized his identity, which was something Gu Zixuan did not expect. The virtual Sun sect was not weak. However, it was also relatively speaking. Compared to Yuan's sect, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Although Gu Zixuan did not think that Yuan's sect would deal with the virtual Sun sect for such a small matter, he had offended him after all. If Linjie held a grudge against him in the future, with the advantage of being an inner disciple of a top sect, he might not be able to deal with him. Therefore, Gu Zixuan took a deep breath and said slowly, I can give you the Skyheart Orchid, but this natural treasure was discovered by you and me together. It is impossible for me to give it away. Although you are from Yuan's sect, the virtual Sun sect is not afraid of trouble. Furthermore, your sect is a top sect in the Baiyun Mansion, so you should still be magnanimous and will not make things difficult for me. Hearing this, Lin Jie's smile also faded a little. That's right, there was nothing wrong with Gu Zixuan's words. What he had said before was just to scare the other party. Even if the Skyheart Orchid was snatched away, the strong people in the sect would not easily interfere. At most, he could use his identity as an inner disciple to win some friends, but if he wanted to rely on this to deal with the virtual Sun sect, it was still too far away. However, from Gu Zixuan's words, he could see that the other party wanted to retreat. Thoughts surged in his mind. Lin Jie took out a fruit from his storage ring and threw it to the other party. This is the Blood Flame fruit. Although it is not as good as the Skyheart Orchid, it will not let you go back empty-handed. Seeing this, Gu Zixuan reached out and took a serious look at the Blood Flame fruit. After that, he took out a jade box and solemnly put it away. When his gaze fell on Lin Jie again, he glanced at the storage ring on Lin Jie's hand, and there was a trace of envy in his eyes. A storage ring. As a dignified spiritual god, he did not even have a storage ring. Now, an inner disciple of Yuan's sect who was only at the physical aura stage had such a treasure. He could not help but be envious. At this moment, Gu Zixuan was also shocked by the resources of the top sections. However, after taking the Blood Flame fruit, he did not stay for too long. I'll let you have the Skyheart Orchid. Goodbye, Gu Zixuan said as he clasped his hands and left. The Blood Flame fruit was only a level 7 spiritual herb. It was not as good as the Skyheart Orchid, but it was also valuable. Now that Lin Jie was a member of Yuan's sect, it was not worth offending the other party for a Skyheart Orchid. Of course, the biggest problem was that he was not confident in killing the other party. Who knew what kind of life-saving trump cards the disciples of the top sects had? If he could not silence them after killing them, then he and the entire Void Sun sect would be in big trouble. It did not matter if he snatched the treasures. But if he hunted down and killed the disciples of the sect, Yuan's sect would definitely not let it go. So, either he did not make a move, or he made a move. The fight just now let Gu Zixuan know that Lin Jie's strength was not as good as his, but it was not much weaker. Therefore, he chose to take the Blood Flame fruit and gave up the Skyheart Orchid. Of course, he was at a disadvantage. But who asked the Void Sun sect's strength to be inferior? He could only grit his teeth and swallow this loss. When Gu Zixuan's aura completely disappeared, Lin Jie came to the Skyheart Orchid and picked it. Something similar to this. It often happened in the Endless Mountains. Snatching the spiritual herb, crushing with status, or simply calling for friends and directly starting a war. To this, Qin Shujian sat steadily in Yuan's sect and could not be bothered to care so much. As long as the people of the other sects did not bully the weak, then things would be as they were. After all, he did not establish Yuan's sect to let the other party rely on a mountain and do whatever they wanted. If they were arrogant without strength, then they deserved to be beaten to death. Of course, the people who attacked had to do it cleanly. Otherwise, if the sect found out, they would still have to get back at them. The cultivation of the celestial being is too slow. Qin Shujian exited from the state of cultivation. Looking at the acupoints in his body, he could not help but shake his head and sigh. Almost 10 days had passed. Until now, the star's acupoints were still at the number 376. The 377th acupoint had not shown any signs of opening. Thinking back to when he swallowed a large number of spirit stones in one breath and then opened 10 acupoints, he sighed again. When he did not cultivate seriously, he did not know the difficulty of opening acupoints. Until now. Only then did Qin Shujian realize how difficult it was to open 10 acupoints at once. It's about time. The mixed essence sacred fruit of the heavenly array sect should be here. In the forbidden area, Qin Shujian sensed a familiar aura at the foot of the mountain. He immediately exited from the state of cultivation and left. In front of the mountain gate, Feng Xinglan was waiting there. There was no need to deliberately send a visiting card. Under the situation where one's aura was not hidden, it was not difficult for the people of Yuan's sect to detect it. At this moment, a man in green walked down the mountain. The steep mountain road in front of him was as simple as walking on flat ground. Elder Feng, you're finally here. A hearty laughter came from afar. The voice was not loud, but it clearly entered Feng Xinglan's mind. Hearing this, Feng Xinglan immediately cupped his hands and smiled. How would I dare to forget what I promised before? While they were talking, Qin Shujian had already arrived in front of him. It's inconvenient to talk here. Elder Feng, follow me up. Please, please. The two of them went up the mountain one after another. In the Qingwu Hall, as soon as Feng Xinglan sat down, he took out a jade box and lifted it with his spirit sense, sending it in front of Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian reached out and took it, then opened the jade box directly. There were 2 black and white fruits that were about the size of a palm lying there quietly. There was a faint aura flowing around them. As the jade box was opened, a dense aura was emitted from it. Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit. Seeing these 2 fruits, Qin Shujian immediately recognized the fruit. Among all the 9th level spiritual herbs, the Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit was the top. It contained the Origin Qi. Even if an ordinary person who had not stepped on the path of cultivation swallowed it, he could immediately advance to the real martial realm. However, this method of consumption was obviously a great waste, because it was easy to cultivate to the real martial realm, but it was extremely difficult to break through to the diviner realm. As the main ingredient for refining the cultivation pill, the Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit was naturally not something ordinary spiritual herbs could compare to. Feng Xinglan said, in order to get these 2 Origin Chaos Sacred Fruits, the Celestial Array sect spent a lot of spiritual energy. Is Qin Shujian's friend really confident in refining the cultivation pill? At this time, he was also worried and asked another question. Just as Feng Xinglan said, in order to get the Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit, the Celestial Array sect paid a great price. If the refinement of the nature pill failed, then it would be a complete loss. Although even if the cultivation pill was successfully refined, Qin Shujian would not give it to him for free. At least there was hope. Qin Shujian smiled confidently and said, Elder Feng, don't worry. Since I dared to ask for the Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit, I naturally have the confidence to succeed. However, as I said at the beginning, the cultivation pill refined will not be given to the Celestial Array sect for free. Elder Feng needs to be mentally prepared for this. Of course, I understand that. Feng Xinglan nodded. Then, Qin Shujian put away the Origin Chaos Sacred Fruit. At this time, Feng Xinglan suddenly changed the topic and said, Sect Master Qin, what do you think of the Imperial Court's words about breaking the heaven and earth restriction and connecting to the other 3 continents? The Imperial Court naturally has its reasons for doing so. Qin Shujian said with a straight face, the human sovereign has been planning for so many years, and this is his goal. The great calamity of the Devil Abyss is probably not fake. Previously, when the Liang Mountain spiritual region was born, the Devil God tore through the space and came here. This is probably a sign. If we want to deal with the great calamity, our chance of survival is very likely to fall on the 3 continents. Sect Master Qin's words are reasonable. Feng Xinglan closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. His pair of sloppy eyes had a bit more light. The matter of the 3 continents. He had hidden it too deeply. If it wasn't for the imperial court telling him about this matter, he would still be in the dark. As for the great calamity of the demon abyss, this matter was also extremely secretive. Originally, Feng Xinglan thought that as a top sect, the Celestial Array sect could not hide many things from his eyes and ears. But now, he realized that the Celestial Array sect was like a frog in a well. The so-called truth only flowed on the surface. Thinking of this, Feng Xinglan sighed and said, "If the 3 continents are connected, I'm afraid that those who have not reached the celestial realm will have no right to speak. Even if one is a celestial being, I'm afraid that there are not many things that they can decide." Qin Shujian shook his head, his expression somewhat melancholic. Those who had not reached the divine martial realm thought that they could be ranked at the top of the world after breaking through to the celestial realm. They no longer needed to fear anything when doing things. But only after breaking through to the celestial realm would they realize. In fact, the celestial being was only slightly stronger. In the face of some things, they were still powerless. However, Feng Xinglan was right about one thing. If the eastern continent was connected to the other 3 continents, they would at least need a celestial being to oversee it if they wanted to get a share of the pie in this world of great battles. Otherwise, the difference would be too great. Even if they had not broken through the restrictions of heaven and earth, the top combat power in the world was mainly the celestial being. Although the divine martial realm was carefree, it was just for their own amusement. Feng Xinglan's expression suddenly flickered when he heard this. He said, "Other than bringing the origin sacred fruit over, I also have something to discuss with Sect Master Qin." "What is it?" "Alliance." Feng Xinglan's expression was solemn as he said solemnly, "Although the Heavenly Array sect does not have a celestial being overseeing it, it is still a top sect and has the means to deal with a celestial being. Now that the imperial court is about to connect the 3 continents, no one knows what will happen in the future. At that time, I'm afraid that even top sects like you and me might not be able to stay out of it. Why don't we form an alliance? If there is danger in the future, we can help each other. It's much better than fighting alone." After he finished speaking, Yizichen said. Feng Xinglan shut his mouth and waited for Qin Shujian's reply. He did not have this idea about forming an alliance at first. However, after the imperial court announced the matter of the 3 continents and the great calamity of the demon abyss, he already had a plan in mind. There were also top sects in the world. However, after thinking about it, Feng Xinglan felt that only the origin sect was the most suitable candidate. In terms of strength, the origin sect was powerful enough. However, in terms of overall foundation, the origin sect had developed for too short a time and was slightly inferior to the other top sections. As for the Heavenly Array sect, although they did not have a celestial being overseeing it, they had a formation master. Moreover, the Heavenly Array sect had been in the Fallen Moon Mansion for thousands of years and had an extremely deep foundation. The 2 sects formed an alliance and complemented each other. Qin Shujian, who was on the side, also fell into silence at this time. He was also a little tempted by Feng Xinglan's words. The origin sect was powerful now, but to put it bluntly, its foundation was still a lot weaker, and it lacked a middle and high-level power overseeing it. Once the war started, it would be troublesome. After a long silence, Qin Shujian looked up at Feng Xinglan and said, "If the Heavenly Array sect is exchanged for the Fate Pill, how confident are you in breaking through to the celestial being realm?" 70%. Feng Xinglan replied in a deep voice. 70%. This probability was not low at all. No one had 100% confidence in breaking through to the celestial being realm. Therefore, to a certain extent, a 70% success rate was equivalent to 100%. Hearing this, Qin Shujian nodded and said, "If Elder Feng can break through to the celestial being realm, then the origin sect and the Heavenly Array sect will officially form an alliance. To be honest, the Heavenly Array sect, which lacks a celestial being overseeing it now, is still a little lacking. I have always been straightforward with my words, so Elder Feng, please don't take offense." The current him had a different outlook. Without reaching the celestial being realm, No matter how strong the Heavenly Array sect's foundation was, it would not be able to enter his eyes. After all, once an alliance was formed, it would not be as simple as a verbal agreement. Fang Xinglan pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "Since Sect Master Qin has said so, then I can only agree. Celestial Being Realm. As long as he had the Fate Pill, it would not be difficult for him." Chapter 498. Fang Xinglan came quickly. He also left quickly. There were two main purposes for his visit to Yuan's sect this time. One was because of the cultivation elixir, and the other was to form an alliance. Now that things had been settled temporarily, Fang Xinglan did not stay for long. On the other side, Qin Shujian got up and went to the Sundry Hall. It was different from the previous heaven and earth treasures that were placed in the Alchemy Hall. Now, most of the resources in the sect were placed in the Sundry Hall. At this time, Su Yuanming had also returned. When Qin Shujian arrived, he was the first to appear. Su Yuanming poured a cup of tea for Qin Shujian and then asked curiously, "May I know why Sect Master came to the Sundry Hall this time?" One would not visit a temple without a reason. Qin Shujian rarely came to the Sundry Hall. Since the establishment of the Sundry Hall, the number of times he had come could be counted on one hand. Su Yuanming inevitably had all kinds of guesses when he suddenly came at this time. "I need to exchange for these things in the Sundry Hall." Qin Shujian handed over a piece of rice paper, which recorded some of the materials needed to refine the cultivation elixir. Su Yuanming reached out and took it and read it seriously. He wasn't very familiar with the Tao of Alchemy, so he only glanced at the heaven and earth treasures recorded on the Xin paper before memorizing them all in his heart. The Sundry Hall does have these things, but Sect Master, you may need a lot of contribution points to exchange for them. Exchange for all of them. Qin Shujian waved his hand. Contribution points and whatnot were not a problem. As the Sect Master, how could he have less contribution points? One had to know. These contribution points weren't added by Qin Shujian through cheating. Instead, they were accumulated through the destruction of the sect and the contributions he had made to the sect over such a long time. Hearing this, Su Yuanming did not say too much. After sitting for a while, he got up and went to the storeroom of the Sundry Hall. About half an hour passed. Su Yuanming returned to the inner hall again. After seeing Qin Shujian, he immediately took out all the spiritual herbs that Qin Shujian needed from the storage ring. "Sect Master, please check. These are the things you need." How many contribution points? Qin Shujian only needed to use his spiritual force to scan, and he knew that there was no mistake. He didn't seem to do anything, but the materials that had been laid out were all put into his storage ring. A total of 123,976 contribution points are required. "I'll give you 124,000. Hearing this, Su Yuanming did not refuse and handed over his identity token. Qin Shujian took it and transferred 124,000 contribution points to it. After that, he left the Sundry Hall and headed to the sect's treasury. Many things were needed to concoct the transformation pill. There were some things in the miscellaneous hall, but there were some things that even the miscellaneous hall didn't have. With Qin Shujian's status as sect master, it was not difficult for him to enter the miscellaneous hall. He quickly found what he wanted. Just as sect head Qin was collecting materials, the Yuan sect disciples who had headed to the Endless Mountain Range also returned one after another. In the mission hall, Xiao Junyi looked at the deacon in front of him and asked, "Can I still submit the mission to investigate the strange movements of the monster clan?" "The mission is no longer valid." The deacon shook his head. The news of the monster clan's escape had spread all over the world. Everyone knew that the strange movements were caused by the monster clan's departure. It was obviously impossible to complete the mission at this time. Hearing this, Xiao Junyi also looked helpless. It was not easy for him to go deep into the monster clan's territory and find out about the disappearance of the monster clan. However, before he could rush back, the news had spread all over the world. Even if he rushed back as fast as he could, he was still one step too late. Subsequently, Xiao Junyi looked at the other missions in the mission hall. The missions that were originally for the monster clan's bounty had been completely cancelled. He was not surprised by this. The monster clan had fled to the other 3 continents. Now, there was not a single monster clan in the endless mountain range other than those abandoned monster beasts. Seeing this, Xiao Junyi casually accepted 2 more escort missions and left. As Yuan Sect's power grew stronger, the cooperation with the carrier trading company became deeper and deeper. Now, the carrier trading company no longer cooperated with other sects and forces in Baiyun Mansion. They only cooperated with Yuan Sect. Therefore, the escort missions had expanded from the Liang Mountain spiritual domain to the entire Baiyun Mansion. This was not a strange thing. If they could cover the entire Baiyun Mansion with just a sum of money, the carrier trading company would naturally not spend dozens or even hundreds of sums of money on escort missions. Even if the sum of money was more than the sum of dozens or hundreds of other missions, it was still the same. After all, compared to other sects and forces, Yuan Sect provided a higher safety factor. In Baiyun Mansion, even if it was a large sect, there would be cultivators who did not give them face. However, Yuan Sect did not have this problem. As for why the carrier trading company did not use the teleportation gate, there were 2 reasons. First, not all places had teleportation gates. Second, the cost of teleportation gates was too high. If all the goods were transported, there would be almost no profit to speak of. The carrier trading company was focused on profits. If they could not even make much profit, why would they waste time doing these things? In the Forbidden Grounds, Qin Shujian sat cross-legged. In front of him was a cauldron as tall as a person. Originally, with his skills, he did not need a cauldron to refine elixirs. However, the nature elixir was not ordinary. In order to successfully refine it, he had to be prepared in all aspects. To refine the nature elixir, the flame is one of the most important factors. The green lotus wood is full of vitality and can be used as fuel. Qin Shujian followed the instructions of refining the nature elixir in his mind. First, he took out a piece of green wood that was as thick as an arm and about half a foot long. It was an 8th grade material, green lotus wood. This material only had one use, and that was as fuel for the flame. Other than that, it had no other uses. Although it had only one use, the price was extremely high. The reason was, this was because many top-grade pills required the use of green lotus wood. After placing the green lotus wood under the cauldron, Qin Shujian activated his true yuan and ignited the green lotus wood. Sizzle! As the green flame burned, the temperature of the surroundings instantly rose. The bottom of the cauldron, which was originally black, turned slightly red. Subsequently, Qin Shujian took out 2 more pieces of green lotus wood and threw them in together. In an instant, the flame became even fiercer. With the green lotus wood as the foundation, the flame even burned the surrounding space until it was slightly distorted. Seeing this, Qin Shujian had already begun to take out various kinds of spiritual herbs from his storage ring, and then threw them in an orderly manner. Immediately after, he covered the cauldron with his divine thought. His hands formed a seal, silently controlling the flame and constantly refining the spirit herbs inside. The flame continued to burn. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. The spirit herbs in the cauldron had already melted and turned into a pool of dark green liquid. After reaching this step, Qin Shujian placed the other spirit herbs into the cauldron bit by bit from the storage ring. A dense spiritual energy lingered in the cauldron without dispersing. Qin Shujian's face was solemn. His hands formed a seal in an orderly manner and threw in spirit herbs from time to time. Wrapped in the green flame, the cauldron trembled slightly. Soon, 3 days had passed. All the supplementary spirit herbs have melted and there are no impurities. Now, it's time to put in the origin sacred fruit. Qin Shujian took out the jade box, took out the 2 origin sacred fruits, and threw them in directly. Boom! As the origin sacred fruit fell in, the originally dense spirit energy suddenly changed into a terrifying aura. At the same time, dark clouds gathered in the sky, and purple lightning constantly flickered in the sky. An aura that resembled the might of the heavens permeated the air, causing everyone who felt this aura to have a change in expression. No one knew what was going on. However, With the thunder tribulation gathering, it meant that something that the heavenly Tao was watching was born. At this moment, Qin Shujian's attention was all on the cauldron. He did not pay any attention to the thunder tribulation gathering in the sky. Rumble. No one knew how long had passed. Suddenly, the first bolt of lightning struck from the sky. As the lightning fell, the lid of the cauldron suddenly shattered. 5 gray elixirs flew out and were about to escape in all directions. Trying to escape? Qin Shujian was already prepared. He grabbed with his big hand, and the 5 elixirs that had just escaped were immediately imprisoned. At this moment, lightning fell from the sky one after another. In response, he did not make any move to stop it. Any top-grade elixir that was born must be tempered by lightning. This was to cleanse the impurities and was also a test. If it could not even withstand the thunder tribulation, then the creation elixir was not qualified to be a top-grade elixir, let alone be qualified to go against the heavens and help people break through to the celestial being realm. Crack! Bolts of lightning struck the 5 pills one after another. After withstanding several lightning strikes, one of the elixirs cracked. A large amount of pill chi overflowed from it and was attracted by the other 4 elixirs. Boom! Another bolt of lightning fell, and the elixir was completely shattered. A large amount of pill chi burst out. The other 4 elixirs seemed to be breathing and absorbed all the pill chi that burst out. And after absorbing the pill chi, the original 4 elixirs had also become even rounder. Under the tempering of the lightning, the situation that they could not withstand was also reversed. The lightning came quickly and left quickly. In less than an hour, the dark clouds that had gathered in the sky dissipated. Instead, 4 elixirs that were full of dense aura stopped in midair. Come here. Qin Shujian took out the 4 jade bottles that he had prepared beforehand, and then took out the corks one by one. The 4 elixirs seemed to be sucked by something and flew toward the jade bottles uncontrollably. After the elixirs entered the jade bottles, he resealed the jade bottles. At the same time, the 4 jade bottles trembled violently as if something inside was colliding and would break out of the jade bottles at any time. Don't struggle anymore. It's useless. Qin Shujian chuckled and said to the jade bottles. In order to seal the creation elixir, he specially refined 4 jade bottles of the spirit weapon level. Although the elixirs with spirit were tyrannical, it was not to the point of breaking the jade bottles. After keeping the jade bottles, Qin Shujian turned and left the forbidden area. Walking in the sect, more than half of the disciples who had entered the endless mountain range had returned. Therefore, the number of disciples gradually returned to its original size. Walking to the martial arts hall, Qin Shujian looked at Zheng Fang, who was sitting there, and said, "Inform Yin Banching of the Traceless sect and Fang Xinglan of the Celestial Array sect that the things they want have been refined. If they want it, come to the Yuan sect to negotiate in half a month." Okay. Zheng Fang nodded. He did not ask what Qin Shujian had refined. Since the other party did not say, it was not something he could ask. "Sect Master, you came at the right time. I also have something to talk to you about." "What is it?" "The old housekeeper of the Bayun Marquis Mansion is here again. He is temporarily staying in the cold mountain city and waiting for Sect Master to come out of seclusion to summon him." Xiaohong. Qin Shujian frowned slightly. One would not visit a temple without a cause. Since Xiaohong had come at this time, it was definitely not a good thing. Or rather, it was definitely not a good thing. He must have something to ask of him. This period of time was actually quite tiring for Qin Shujian. At first, he was busy killing evil spirits. Then, he didn't rest for a few days before he rushed to the Imperial City to put out the fire. After that, he went to the demon race to fight. After that, he opened up the space secret realm, refined the cultivation pill, and so on. Everything was lined up one by one, waiting for him to do it. Not to mention, a year later, the Imperial Court would break the heaven and earth restriction and connect with the other 3 continents. There would definitely be more things waiting for him. For Qin Shujian, it was a different story. What he wanted more was to have a good rest and not care about so many trivial matters. However, Xiaohong had undoubtedly come on behalf of Marquis Bayun this time. Qin Shujian could ignore Xiaohong, but he could not ignore Marquis Bayun. "Ask him to come and see me tomorrow." Qin Shujian looked a little helpless and casually replied. Hearing this, Zhang Fang nodded in agreement. In the cold mountain spiritual domain, an old man and a young man were walking slowly. Boy, are you sure you don't want to be my disciple? Gong Mingze looked at the young man beside him and asked again unwillingly. I have said this many times. Senior, I am very grateful for escorting me to the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. However, I have promised to join the Yuan sect from the beginning. Ningbo said helplessly. Ever since he received Qin Shujian's token, he immediately set off for the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. However, in just half a month, Ningbo encountered no less than several waves of robbers. Not only were all his money stolen, but he also almost lost his life. In the end, Gong Mingze descended from the sky and saved him. Along the way, it was always Gong Mingze who accompanied him. If it wasn't for him, Ningyu had no doubt that she would have died on the way. Hearing this, Gong Mingze scratched his ears and cheeks. He wanted to lose his temper, but he also felt a little helpless. Boy, is the Yuan sect so good? Even if you join the Yuan sect, what can you do? Yes, the Yuan sect is a top sect. However, there are many disciples in the top sections. You are only in your 20s, and your foundation has long been set. Even if you are lucky enough to join, you will not be put in an important position. The path of cultivation is about the right time, place, and people. You are lucky to have met me. Don't be ungrateful. While speaking, Gong Mingze sighed in his heart. He was right. Ningbo's foundation had already been set. It would be difficult for him to do anything if he joined other sections. The other party's constitution was a good seedling to cultivate his unique technique. This was also the reason why Gong Mingze had not given up. It was not an easy task to find a suitable successor. He spent hundreds of years to meet Ningbo. Naturally, he could not just watch the other party join the Yuan sect and waste his life away. However, Gong Mingze did not intend to force the other party. The path of cultivation depended on oneself. Even if he forced the other party to become his disciple and cultivate his technique, it would be difficult for the other party to make much progress in the future. Therefore, he had been trying to persuade Ningbo, hoping that the other party would change his mind. Hearing this, Ningbo shook his head and said, Senior, I appreciate your kindness. However, I have already made up my mind to join the Yuan sect. Please don't try to persuade me anymore. Hearing this, Gong Mingze was infuriated. How high was the cultivation of the person who left you the token? He might just be an ordinary disciple of the Yuan sect. The reason why the Yuan sect is now a top sect is because of the sect master, Qin Shujian. If not for Qin Shujian, the Yuan sect would at most be a large sect in the spirit domain. I am an expert in the late stage of the divine martial realm. I might even break through to the heavenly human realm in the future. It is the greatest blessing of my life to have you as my disciple. Others would beg for it. At the mention of the late stage of the divine martial realm, Gong Mingze's face was filled with pride. These people's cultivation bases were equivalent to that of an elder in a top sect. Even in the Yuan sect, as long as Qin Shujian did not make a move, he did not think that anyone could compete with him. This was the confidence brought about by absolute strength. Think about it carefully. It is already a great fortune to have a spiritual martial realm cultivator to guide you in the Yuan sect. Perhaps a random disciple in the genuine martial realm would be enough to send you away. If you become my disciple now, you will immediately have the guidance of an expert in the late stage of the divine martial realm. It is possible to enter the cultivation realm in 1 day, reach the genuine martial realm in 3 years, and break through to the spiritual martial realm in 10 years. As long as you inherit my legacy, I guarantee that your future achievements will be at least in the divine martial realm. Tell me, how can the Yuan sect give you such benefits? Gong Mingze guided Ningbo patiently, as if he was determined to make him rein in the horse before the cliff. On the other side, Ningbo heard this and a look of struggle appeared on his face. He naturally knew what Gong Mingze meant. Until now, Ningbo did not know Qin Shujian's identity. He only thought that the person who gave him the token was just an ordinary Yuan sect disciple. Reach the genuine martial realm in 3 years. Break through to the spiritual god realm in 10 years. To be honest, Ningbo was indeed tempted. However, He looked at the distant Liang mountain and felt an inexplicable desire in his heart. I spent 1 or 2 years and went through so many hardships to get here. Am I going to give up just like that? Nyingbo was not sure. Apart from the desire in his heart, he was also unwilling to give up. He was unwilling to spend so much time and gain nothing. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and said slowly, I still want to give it a try. Think about it carefully. If you regret it after you enter the Yuan sect, you won't have the chance. Gong Mingze warned with a solemn expression. He had always hoped that Nyingbo would inherit his legacy. However, he would definitely not let him do whatever he wanted. It was fine before he entered the Yuan sect. However, if he was treated badly after he entered the Yuan sect, it would be impossible for him to want to become his disciple again. No matter what, Gong Mingze was still a great cultivator of the god martial realm. He still had the integrity that he should have. Nyingbo nodded solemnly and replied, I chose this path myself. Naturally, I won't regret it. However, I feel that I have let down Senior's kindness of protecting me along the way. Well, since you have already made up your mind, I won't force you. Gong Mingze shook his head. His tone was a little regretful, but also a little appreciative. Even under such temptation, the other party was still determined. He was indeed a good seedling. However, in his heart, he felt sorry for the other party. With Nyingbo's talent, if he did not cultivate his cultivation method, he would be destined to be mediocre and it would be difficult for him to achieve great things. However, the choice was made by him and Gong Mingze could not interfere. Senior, if you have something to do, you can leave. Since we are about to reach the Yuan sect, there shouldn't be any problems. Nyingbo's expression was a little awkward. It was not good to let him continue to escort him after rejecting him. As for why he did not reject him previously, it was because he knew that with his strength, it was impossible for him to reach the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. Therefore, he could only rely on Gong Mingze to fight for this chance. He already had a plan. If there was a chance in the future, he would naturally repay Gong Mingze several times over. Gong Mingze shook his head and said, Since we are already here, I will accompany you on this last trip. I will also take the opportunity to see who gave you the token. Even if he lost, he also wanted to know who he lost to. Otherwise, Gong Mingze would not be satisfied. Yuan sect. Qin Shujian was originally in the martial arts hall, discussing some future plans for the Yuan sect with Zheng Fong. Suddenly, a slightly familiar aura appeared in his perception, causing him to pause his words. Zheng Fong asked curiously, What happened? Nothing much, but an unexpected person has come. Unexpected person? Haha, it's nothing. Great Elder. You can go back to your work. Qin Shujian could not help but laugh as he stood up and left the martial arts hall. Zheng Fong was the only one left sitting in his original position. The confusion on his face became even more intense. But I haven't seen Sect Master smile like that for a long time. Who exactly is that person? At the foot of Liang Mountain, Nyingbo raised his head to look at the towering mountain peak, his heart filled with intense shock. As for Gong Mingze, he felt it for a moment and said with some emotion, such dense spiritual energy. The Yuan sect is indeed a top sect. It is truly extraordinary. Kid, let's go. Since we are already here, let's just go up the mountain. After feeling emotional, Gong Mingze's gaze landed on Nyingbo as he urged. He had already accepted his fate and gave up on the idea of Lin Fan becoming his disciple. He only wanted to see who had intercepted his disciple. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.